And now, Knock 2 Studios presents Common Censored. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Common Censored. How's everybody doing today? All of you censored commoners, this is episode 232, if you can believe it, guys. Hard to believe there's already been over 230 episodes of this show. We got a DOJ chief undercover caught on camera saying Trump lawfare is a perversion of justice. We got Hunter Biden pleading guilty to tax crimes and stuff, but big old Papa Joe's probably going to slide through with a pardon, if you ask me. Trump going to slash mortgage costs, slash taxes on Social Security, and companies creating American jobs, good things that'll draw more people into his group of support. Make sure to join us Monday through Friday as we cover all the crazy clown world clusterfuck chaos on Common Censored, 6:45-ish Eastern Time. A perverted perversion. That's right, Mom Mac. Oh man, use hashtag Common Censored, hashtag Info Infantry when you share the broadcast. Find us on X at Lord Sterling _ Sterling with 2 I's. STIRILI. And G, can't even spell my own name, damn it. Thanks to all of our new followers over on Rumble. Appreciate you guys. Links to all of the content we cover today will be posted down in the description immediately following the broadcast. So if you're watching this later on and need to maximize the efficiency of your time, focus, energy, attention, etc., click on down in the description. Find the topics that interest you. Mama Mac will be adding timestamps throughout the broadcast. So if you can find the topics that interest you, jump right to them in the broadcast. Disclaimer. Views expressed on Common Censored are only opinions. Assume everything we say is false and research for yourself. We're not giving medical, legal, or financial advice. The only advice we are giving is think for yourself. Question authority. Think for yourself. Question authority. Boom! Let's start off the day with a little bit of a little threeper quote of the day. Haven't done that in a while. We've got one. This one from Will Rogers. The difference between death and taxes is death doesn't get worse every time Congress meets. Oh man, that's a good one. Nice find, Threeper. Thanks for sending that over, brother. Threeper, the General of the Info Air Force. Good to hear from you, man. Let's see what we got on the list for news. For some reason, it's not letting me share this particular thing that I wanted to share right off the bat. Let's see if we can mess with this a little. All right, now it looks like I got it. All right, we got a public service announcement for the start. I tried to do this for a cold open, but it didn't work, so I'm going to play it now.
Mom and the Cubs keep following me.
A lot of people sent me this video asking for my advice, so here's what you should do in that situation. Make yourself as big as possible, then approach the bear. That will cause it to back up. As soon as it does, grab one of the cubs, hold it hostage. When the bear reacts, just go, I ain't playing no games, you better back up. Back away slowly, start heading towards the parking lot to the trail. You're then going to want to ask for the bear's car keys, pick them up, and then back up towards their vehicle. When you get to the vehicle, you're going to want to ask the bear to put their phone on the ground. As soon as they do, stomp it. Maintain eye contact with the bear, get in the vehicle, and drive off. About a mile out, you can drop the cub. This one's easy, guys.
The mom and the
RFK Jr. style, too soon? Sorry. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, it all sounds pretty logical to me. So, probably works. Probably works, guys. Let's see what we got next for actual news. Let me scroll up here to the boom. All right, let's, we're going to jump into the crazy DOJ stuff to start the show today. Election interference. DOJ chief caught admitting in undercover footage that Trump indictments are politically motivated. Imagine my shock. exposes plot to make Trump a convicted felon and affect his candidacy. We've got an article from Gateway Pundit talking about it. Louder with Crowder's Mug Club undercover unit put this one together and discovered this. We got a post about it from Ian Miles Chong over here as well. Whoa, DOJ's chief of public affairs admits on camera that the Trump indictments are politically motivated. They're a, quote, perversion of justice. He admits that Alvin Bragg was stacking charges on Trump and his, quote, nonsense, unquote, case. But let's jump over to Crowder's original post to check out some of the video. Crowder over here, I'm wearing my my Fight Like Hell shirt in honor of Crowder's job today. So breaking: DOJ chief of public affairs admits Trump indictments are politically motivated perversion of justice, reveals lawfare involved in making former president a, quote, convicted felon, backfired on Democrats, claims his former colleague Fat Alvin Bragg's case is, quote, nonsense, unquote, and alleges he was stacking charges. Let's check out this video. Looks pretty insane.
He was stacking charges and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. Make the case is nonsense. It's a perversion of justice. To make him a convict, a convicted felon. It affects his candidacy if he's a convicted felon. It's a travesty of justice, a mockery of justice.
Let me be clear about
Slurp.
something on the outset. The person you'll be watching today is not the bad guy here. Unwitting whistleblower? Yeah. Nicholas Biasi is the chief of public affairs for the Department of Justice's Southern District of New York. Something you may be familiar with, and the most prominent federal trial court in America.
Those felonies did nothing to stop Trump from running.
No, in fact, they made him more relevant.
Did that backfire?
Sure did.
Backfired bigly. You could say it backfired bigly. A tremendous backfire.
And the whole thing is disgusting. They're
Proof.
just out to get him. And that's why, the surging of the public. It's a perversion of justice. No. He was stacking charges and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. No, to be honest with you, I think the case is nonsense. State levels like the Wild West. They're like idiots. They don't care. They're all political. So yeah, this guy's probably going to try to lock him up, and it's going to be ugly. They're so obsessed with getting him.
Right, like Dershowitz's book is even titled "Get Trump."
Who is they?
Alvin Bragg, yeah, who I've known for 15 years. He used to work in my office. Before he decided to prosecute Trump, did you know who he was? You do now. I'm
Nope.
not sure what he wants to be, but I know he's not happy just being the DA of New York County. So Alvin's very ambitious. Every real estate person in New York does what he did. Nobody's ever been charged with this until him.
Mr. Biasi is just saying the quiet part out loud. The part that unfortunately matters. Lawfare? Yes. Why? Because Biasi openly says so. The ones from Alvin Bragg are a particular perversion of justice. How do you know? Because Biasi
Fat Alvin Bragg. Hey, Fat Alvin.
says so, and he's known him for 15 years. Election interference? At this point, is there any doubt?
Are those even actual felonies? Because I was pretty sure that.
He was stacking charges and rearranging things just to make it fit a case. No, to be honest with you, I think the case is nonsense. Every real estate person in New York does what he did. Nobody's ever been charged with this until him. And that's why, the surging of the public. It's a perversion of justice.
Those felonies did nothing to stop Trump from running.
No, in fact, they made him more relevant.
Did that backfire?
Sure did.
Yeah, it enabled the public to see the velvet glove being pulled off of the iron fist of the deep state as they weaponize the justice system to attack their political enemies, making it perfectly obvious to everybody that they are corrupt schemers and liars and crooks.
And that was that Alvin Bragg's choice to do that? Or why?
Because Alvin's very ambitious.
What do you mean?
He wants to be, something. I don't know what. Mayor. I'm not sure what he
He wants to be known as anything other than Fat Alvin.
wants to be, but I know he's not happy just being the DA of New York County. So this is like before he decided to prosecute Trump. Did you know who he was? You do now.
What was the point of even doing it then?
To make him a convict,
To make him what?
a convicted felon.
How does he can still run for presidency? And
Yeah, but it affects his candidacy if he's a convicted felon.
I was trying to count the losses. I was like, I wonder how many are against him. I think it's called lawfare.
Yes,
That's what I've gathered from
that
that.
is what they call it.
So how does this even happen? How can it happen? How can the local and state level courts try President Trump with more ease and less red tape than the federal courts? That doesn't seem right to the uninitiated, but you are the uninitiated. Good thing Biasi isn't.
I mean, at the federal level where I work, there is a 90-day rule where you can't make any decisions on cases that are going to affect an election. That rule does not apply at the state level because the state level is like Wild West. They're like idiots. They don't care. They're all political.
Seven
So
Samurai.
they're probably going to try to lock them up, and it's going to be ugly. They're so obsessed with getting him.
Who is they? How do they get away
Demon
with
rats.
It's a different system. Like the state level and the federal level are like night and day. It's hard to explain, but like there are so many more rules in the federal level, and they're like the threshold for a crime is so much higher. Like I said, like the state level is like a Wild West of law. It's like very, for lack of a better term, unregulated. Less checks and balances.
And I know what you're thinking. I thought it too. Well, you're talking about one case or two or 19. Hey, if it's local, you break the rules. You pay the piper, or even if you
Cool
don't.
shot there. Look at that.
President Trump pay the piper. But there are other cases in the country. There are a lot of them where there's smoke, there's fire. Right? What about the Georgia electoral interference case? Right, that Donald Trump is currently having to face under Fani Willis, right? The Fulton County District Attorney, who was caught having an affair with the special prosecutor, Nathan Wade.
So is that the
Main
strategy against
squeeze.
Trump? Just hit him with all the legal battles all across, like the
100%.
Fani Willis, Georgia stuff. What do you think about that case?
It's a travesty of justice. To put it mildly, it's a mockery of justice. She is a joke. Like her and her boyfriend she was seeing, the whole thing is disgusting. They're just out to get him.
I guess at this point, the only argument left is why should you trust anything Biasi has to say? Let me make the case. Biasi is an expert. He has firsthand knowledge and experience. And despite how the media is going to try and spin this, he is kind of an authoritative voice as the chief of public affairs for the Department of Justice's Southern District of New York. This
Pretty
man knows
serious
the players.
position.
He knows the game, and he knows that it is rigged.
Who's that? Alvin
Alvin
Bragg?
Bragg, yeah, who I've known for 15 years. He used to work in my office. So
Damn. Check out the rest of this video. Crowder's post over here on X. I'll add it to the chat right now so you guys can save it for later if you want, but it will also be in the video description immediately following the broadcast in a couple hours. Let's jump over to our next topic. There were posts going around alleged to be the profile on X of the Appalachia High School shooter yesterday. Now they've been deleted, but they were showing like pronouns and stuff like that. But it's being reported that X is blocking users from searching the name of the shooter. So I don't know. Elon, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you restricting people from searching stuff on X? It was probably fake, and it's now been deleted. The profile picture, but who knows, man? Who knows? Let's check out this other post about school shootings being fomented and encouraged as part of a psyop to get people to turn in their guns. This from Illuminati Bot, at Illuminati Bot. Naval intelligence officer who predicted 9/11 wrote this in 1991, the book The Secret Government. The government encouraged the manufacture and importation of military firearms for the criminals to use. This is intended to foster a feeling of insecurity, which would lead the American people to voluntarily disarm themselves by passing laws against firearms, using drugs and hypnosis on mental patients in a process called Orion. The CIA inculcated the desire in these people to open fire on schoolyards and thus inflame the anti-gun lobby. This plan is well underway and so far is working perfectly. The middle class is begging the government to do away with the Second Amendment. Sounds about right to me. Wendy Wild in the chat. Good to see you, Wendy. Hope you're feeling better. So yeah, CIA plot to use school shootings to disarm citizens. Sounds about right to me, guys. Sounds about right to me. Seems pretty obvious. How about this? Joe Biden admitting that the Inflation Reduction Act was not actually about inflation when he went off teleprompter recently. Holy shit, Colin Rugg says, at Colin Rugg, Colin with 2 L's, Rugg with 2 G's. Biden said the Inflation Reduction Act was actually about funding climate change efforts and said the act should have actually been named something different. Almost like we were saying that at the time. Though through my investments, the most significant climate change law ever. And by the way, it's a $369 billion bill. Man, these people are pure evil. Climate change is, global warming is bullshit.
My investments, through my investments, the most significant climate change law ever. And by the way, it is a $369 billion bill. It's called the we should have named it what it was, but at any rate, my
due process right into volcanoes for the climate crooks. Right into volcanoes after due process. FBI's ass out, and I don't want presidential immunity for this scumbag over here. No. I'm still nervous about that presidential immunity decision from SCOTUS the other day, but I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. How about this? Nate Silver predicting effectively a blowout for Donald Trump. Chances of winning 60.1% for Trump. Harris 39.7%. Swing states chance of winning: Pennsylvania, Trump 61. Trump in Arizona 73%. North Carolina, Trump 73%. Georgia, Trump 65%. Nevada, Trump 57%. Michigan and Wisconsin both tied at 50. Polymarket betting odds, Trump 53% right now. And here's a chart showing the likelihood of both candidates to win. It looked like when Harris entered the campaign, Trump was on top, and then there's the brief honeymoon period where they swapped, and now things are correcting back to where they were originally, as people are like, Kamala's dumb. Pretty hilarious. Yep. 0% chance that in a legitimate election, in my opinion, that Kamala wins. Latest Nate Silver forecast: Harris 56% on August 14th, losing ground on August 27th, and now Trump in the lead at this point with 60.1% odds of winning. What's his face? Eric Doherty over here posting about it as well. Trump 60% odds of winning. Man, we better hope that holds up. Hopefully the gap continues to widen with Trump building more and more steam as we move forward. Let's jump over to our next topic, as Hunter Biden is going to be pleading guilty to his federal tax case at the last minute. to avoid trial. A strategic guilty plea, maybe knowing that his daddy will come in with a pardon. Joe has said before, I will not pardon Hunter. But we'll see. We'll see. Pardon incoming. This one by Christina Layla. Hunter Biden is trying to change his plea to guilty in a federal tax evasion case at the last minute to avoid trial. U.S. District Judge Mark Scarsy, a Trump appointee, must sign off on the request. According to CNN, the court is on a break and won't resume until 2 p.m. Eastern Time, so they've already resumed. Let's hop over to X and see if there are any updates on this. Hunter, guilty. Let's see. Looks like the top posts are still from earlier today. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know if you guys see any updates. Hunter is currently facing federal tax fraud charges in California. In December, Hunter was hit with a 9-count indictment filed in the Central District of California. Tax evasion, failure to file/pay taxes, false/fraudulent tax return. These charges were handed down by special counsel David Weiss after a sweetheart plea deal on tax charges fell apart last summer when they threatened to put Hunter on the stand against Joe. The indictment details a, quote, 4-year scheme, unquote, to avoid the $1.4 million tax obligations he owed between 2016 and 2019 and file false returns. Let's jump over to a video about this posted by Nick Sortor. Boom. Hunter Biden will be pleading guilty if the judge allows it. Let's check out this clip.
Not know at this point whether this is the result of some sort of plea deal. It would be reasonable to assume that there has been some deal done between the defense and the prosecution to bring about this change in plea to guilty. The question is now, what kind of sentence might he face? There were 9 charges,
exactly, 7
remember,
samurai,
that he faced here. 3 of those were felony charges, punishable in total by up to 17 years behind bars. So the question will be, going forward, if he is now about to plead guilty, what will the sentence be? Another big question, of course, Harris, that everybody will now be asking is, will President Biden either pardon his son on this guilty plea to these tax evasion charges and indeed the gun conviction he got earlier this year in Delaware, or will he perhaps commute both of those sentences? Now, President Biden has previously said, Harris, he would do neither of those things. But here's the caveat, and it's an important one. President Biden said that, no pardon, no commutation.
Here's the caveat, and it's an important one. Biden has no memory anymore. He's shot mentally. So he can do anything and say anything and not even remember it 5 minutes later. So he'll issue a pardon and be like, sorry, guys, I totally forgot.
Before he decided not to run again for the presidency. Right. So breaking news, we have a guilty plea in this tax evasion case. We now wait to see what the terms of the deal, if indeed there is a deal, exactly those terms are, Harris.
Yeah, and Jonathan, as I've been saying this hour, all bets are off when you're not at the top of the ticket and you don't owe anybody anything. And I believe it was Carrier Bond who pointed out it'll just be a line on his Wikipedia page, maybe, if he commutes his sentence or pardons him altogether. So what does he have to lose as a father?
Sure.
So he may very well go back on that campaign promise because he's not campaigning for himself any longer. Maximum sentence, 17 years for what he faces today. Yep. What this does do, Jonathan, is speed up the timeline, because now you're going to get a sentence faster. You're not trying to fight the case, and that does leave some room then, I would imagine, for some leverage in the case and plea, and some kind of.
What's up, Huss bro? Damn it, Beavis.
Damn it, Beavis.
Don't make me kick your ass. Oh, man. How about this next story? This one's pretty wild. We have the FBI raiding homes of 3 senior aides and closest friends to Democrat New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Ooh, what's going on here? FBI conducted sweeping raids at the homes of 2 top aides to New York City Mayor Adams. Sources familiar with the investigation confirmed that federal agents targeted the Hamilton Heights home of First Deputy Mayor Sheena Wright and her romantic partner, Schools Chancellor David Banks, as well as the Hollis, Queens residence of Deputy Mayor for Public Safety Phil Banks. That's 3 people, not 2? I don't know. David Banks and Phil Banks are brothers. Quote, investigators have not indicated to us the mayor or his staff are targets of any investigation, the mayor's chief counsel, Lisa Zornberg, said in a statement per ABC News. Quote, as a former member of law enforcement, the mayor has repeatedly made clear that all members of his team need to follow the law. Should be a given. You shouldn't really need to make that clear. Sources report that the FBI seized electronics and other evidence during the searches, though no charges have been filed at this time. This is not the first time federal agents have descended upon Adams' inner circle. Yeah, a few months ago, there were raids as well. FBI agents conducted coordinated raids on the residences of a New York City Hall staffer, former Turkish Airlines executive. On the same day, the FBI conducted a raid on the Brooklyn residence of Brianna Suggs, the chief fundraiser for the New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Gateway Pundit previously reported that the FBI launched an investigation against Mayor Eric Adams into potential illegal foreign donations from Turkey to New York City. Mayor Eric Adams in the 2021 election campaign. Searches, which began early November 2nd, targeted Brianna Suggs. What a last name, Suggs. Mayor Adams' chief fundraiser, Rana Abbasova, an aide in his international affairs office, and Cenk Okal, former Turkish Airlines executive who was on Adams's transition team. In November, FBI seized New York City Mayor Eric Adams' cell phones and iPad amid a federal corruption investigation related to his 2021 campaign. His big infraction, guys. His big infraction. Ooh, thanks, Wendy. Thanks for sharing. I gotta write that down. His big infraction, if you guys remember, was basically not like coming out against the whole sanctuary city stuff, realizing, oh shit, we fucked up and this is costing way too much money and being way too big of an issue. And so he was kind of coming out against that situation a little bit, and immediately they started raiding everybody and seizing cell phones and everything. Like, you come out against us, we will crush you, you little ant. And so he's kind of come back in line, it seems, after that. In related news, FBI has also raided homes of New York Police Department Commissioner and police chief following the raids into Eric Adams' closest aides. Man. And this is also right after Governor Hochul's former chief of staff, I think it was, or chief, deputy chief, I don't know, one of those positions, it's all a blur, was arrested for being a Chinese agent. So New York is just so messed up. They got secret Chinese police stations in New York, tunnels from synagogues to alleged sexual chambers, rape chambers, and crazy stuff going on down there. FBI launched a series of raids targeting some of New York City's top officials. FBI executed raids on home of New York Police Department Commissioner Edward Caban and Police Chief Jeffrey Madry. The Police Department Commissioner and Chief. That's huge. PIX 11 reported FBI took the phones of New York Police Department Commissioner Edward Caban and other high-ranking department officials as part of a city corruption investigation. According to law enforcement sources, you think? Like the most corrupt city out there. And probably top 5 at least, maybe top 10. There's a few really corrupt Democrat cities out there. So maybe not the most corrupt. Federal officials took the devices from Caban and 2 New York Police Department lieutenants who worked in the commissioner's office and on his detail, sources said. The phone of a lieutenant in the 10th precinct was also confiscated. FBI also requested New York NYPD Chief of Staff Raul Pintos and 2 precinct commanders in Queens and Manhattan turn over their phones, according to sources. Sources said none of the officials are being questioned, but the New York Police Department has been asked to isolate emails from high-ranking executives. Quote, The department is aware of an investigation by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York involving members of service. The department is fully cooperating in the investigation, a New York Police Department spokesperson said in a statement. Yeah, obviously for readers of TGP, this comes as no surprise. Last year, Hoft reported that former NYPD officer Sal Greco claimed incoming police commissioner Edward Caban is so deeply entangled in corruption that he would quit if Mayor Eric Adams awarded him the position. Sal Greco, or Greco, worked for NYPD for over a decade with an unblemished record. Then he befriended Roger Stone, and soon after that, his career as a NYPD police officer was over. That's right, you can't be friends with anybody on the right, or we will crush you and destroy your career and reputation. February 28th, 2022, Rogers shared the following about Sal Greco. Sal Greco was in Washington, D.C. on January 5th and 6th. Like me, Sal Greco did not go to the ellipse for President Trump's speech, did not march to the Capitol, and was not present at the Capitol on January 6th. In fact, he was in my hotel suite most of the time. We were both shocked to learn about those who illegally entered the Capitol. And he claimed that either of us knew about or had any role in the illegal events of January 6th is a vile lie. And it is categorically false. So, yeah, kind of insane how they keep persecuting people who didn't do anything on J6. And it pretty lucky of Roger Stone. He had a bad feeling about what was going on and decided to stay in his hotel room on that day. Pretty smart move. Nick Sortor posting this. FBI reportedly executed a search warrant and seized cellies of NYPD commissioner as well as several other high-ranking officials per NY1. Something massive is happening in New York City. Yeah, what is really going on? What is really going on? This comes just hours after top aides of Democrat Mayor Eric Adams had their homes raided by the feds. We need more information. We need more information. We will have to keep looking and see what comes up as a result of all this. Next, we have a Zero Hedge article. I did cover those, Mama Mac, in the chat. You must have just missed that. John Mearsheimer and Ron Paul invade Washington. Blast permanent war state. Quote, social engineering at the end of a rifle barrel. Couldn't be more accurate. It's exactly what's going on. Tyler Durden posted this one. The man who for decades has been an almost lone congressional advocate of non-interventionism in American foreign policy is former Congressman Ron Paul. When he ran for president in 2008, he took what the late Justin Raimondo called, quote, libertarian realism to the masses in the famous moment where he tangled with Rudy Giuliani on the GOP debate stage, describing blowback resulting from Washington militarism and adventurism abroad was a contributing cause of 9/11. But for a population fed on a steady diet of the world-saving messianism of Wilsonian internationalism, in which America's mystic destiny is to make the world safe for democracy, to quote Raimondo. Rep. Paul's policy positions were deemed somehow, quote, too radical for American voters to swallow at the time, which is insane because it's the opposite of radicalism. It's like saying, bring the troops home. Let's not do anything rash or radical. Bring the money back. Bring the troops back. Shut down the 900 overseas military bases. Protect the dollar. Let's stop printing money. That's not radical. That's common sense. Or rather, the mainstream gatekeeping pundits assured their viewers of his fringe views. That's what they called him. Nutball, nut job. That was like the most common description of Ron Paul back then. Fast forward to well over another decade of the failed GW Great War on Terror later, and now a common refrain heard on social media and even in the halls of Congress and occasionally the State Department is, Ron Paul was right. Ron Paul was right. The U.S. forever wars in the Middle East led to a jaded, war-weary, and questioning public, which tends to be ever more skeptical anytime the political class starts talking a new major foreign intervention. This is perhaps why, ever since the Obama presidency, Washington has shown a preference for covert and proxy wars or involvement from the shadows, like the Ukraine situation, like the Gaza situation, instead of Bush-style shock and awe outright invasions. But currently, the Pentagon and U.S. intelligence are involved in two disastrous hot wars on a proxy and covert level, which could escalate into massive regional wars or even world wars at any moment, Ukraine and Gaza. Back in 2014, another realist accurately predicted the tragic and disastrous Russia-Ukraine war, which would eventually erupt in February 2022, when he said in a University of Chicago lecture, quote, "The West is leading Ukraine down the primrose path, and the end result is Ukraine is going to get wrecked." Professor John H. Mearsheimer is now famous 2014 hour and 15-minute lecture, once it was popularly discovered on YouTube after the Russian invasion of 2022, has since racked up nearly 30 million views. We wrote about his insights and forecasts in Mearsheimer's Ukraine Crystal Ball, and now in 2024, more and more people are continuing to say, John Mearsheimer was right. I have not seen that before. It sounds interesting. It was perhaps only a matter of time before these two great thinkers who have done so much to expose the follies and dangers of U.S. interventionism abroad would meet and share the same stage. This past weekend, that's exactly what happened. They addressed the Ron Paul Institute's Liberty Platform Conference in the Washington, D.C. area with an audience of several hundreds of people in attendance. Judge Napolitano was there. I think that, what's his face? Jonathan Turley was there. It was Dr. Mearsheimer's first time at the annual Ron Paul Institute conference hosted in Dulles, Virginia. Paul, in delivering his usually strong "End the Empire and End the Fed" liberty message, was agreed with Mearsheimer's words, who said of Washington action in the world, quote, "We decided we are going to use that awesome military power that we had to run around the world and do social engineering." The University of Chicago professor further pointed out, quote, "And of course, it's social engineering in many cases at the end of a rifle barrel." Both also agreed, as the nation enters in a charged election in November, that fundamentally there's no difference between Republicans and Democrats on the question of foreign policy and Washington's penchant for constant military interventionism. Two sides of the same coin, two wings on the same bird. Let's check out some of this over here. Hop over to X from Liberty Seeds. Dr. Ron Paul at the 8th Annual Ron Paul Institute Peace and Prosperity Conference on what he learned from Ludwig von Mises, one of the founders of the Austrian School of Economics, sound money, etc. There has to be people who know how to take these complex ideas and make them palatable to the people. And that's what Ron Paul did so well in 2008. He was amazed that young crowds of college-aged people were applauding when he would talk about monetary policy, completely anathema to what you'd expect. He couldn't believe it was happening.
I approach all that I do in a way that a lesson I learned from Mises. I did hear Mises give one of his very last lectures. The year he died, he had passed through Houston, and I went to a lecture. But in Human Action, he has a statement that stuck with me. And his explanation was, there are intellectuals who will do investigative work, and it will be complex and difficult. I said, well, I'm not one of them. But he had a closing statement to that part that he was talking about, because I listened carefully to that. He said, there will be those intellectuals who write fancy books. And I said, but he said, there has to be people who know how to take those complex ideas and make them palatable to the people, and that's what I work on daily. I'm trying to make liberty palatable to as many people as I can.
That really is the trick, is taking these complex concepts figured out and extrapolated by geniuses and sorry, Mama Mac. And making them so that they're easily understandable. That's something that Ron Paul did really well in his 2012, 2008 campaigns, and something he continues to do to this day. So big ups to Dr. Ron Paul and John Mearsheimer. I'm not familiar with him, but there's a lot of great information in the rest of this article that continues on and on and on and on and on. We're not going to read the whole thing, but check out the link in the description and explore what happened at this conference, Ron Paul Institute conference in Virginia on the 30th, I think it was, or ish, around there. So enjoy that. Look into that. Lots of good stuff coming out from there. Let's jump over to Be Hizzy for our next topic over here. And sorry, Mama Mac and everybody for blowing out your eardrums when I started talking again. B. Hizzy posted, watch, just as Liz Cheney announced her endorsement of Kamala heals up Kamala Harris, a video has resurfaced of her slamming Kamala, calling her a radical. Well, which one is it? Her voting record is on the left of Bernie Sanders. It's very clear she is a radical liberal. Lizard Cheney over here speaking out of both sides of her mouth with her forked lizard tongue. Let's check this out.
As somebody who is a centrist, and in one fell swoop here, he has put somebody on the ticket whose voting record in the Senate is to the left of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. So I think that, the American people are going to look at the substance of this. They're going to look at what she stood for in the past. They're going to look at what she said during the primary election. And it's very clear. She is a radical liberal. She's somebody that has said we ought to spend $32 trillion on Medicare for all.
So now you're admittedly openly supporting radical liberal. Good job, Liz Cheney, moron.
If you look at her record as well in California, she did, in fact, essentially ban gun sales with executive action. And she threatened during the primaries to do the same thing if she's elected, if she as somebody.
Yeah, she's going to do the same thing. Just a reminder, and a thank you to Mama Mac for helping out with the timestamps in the show notes to make things convenient for you guys after the show. So check out alplama.com, your new herbal health guru, ALPLAMA.com, with herbal tinctures to remedy any of the various potential ailments from which you may be suffering. Avoid the petrochemical pharmaceutical industry that wants you sick and dependent. You go to alplama.com. They have delicious herbal teas as well. But the same thing can't be said about the tinctures. They taste bad, but are so good for you. Right, Mama Mac? Alplama. Yuck. And if you want to support the broadcast directly, head on over to our link tree at Common Censored, where you can find links to Golden Cocoon EMF protection products, which I highly recommend. High quality organic cotton and U-Silver Lyocell 100 standard bamboo silver spandex fiber, which is nice and comfortable, stretchy, fits really well. Soft. Bamboo is primo. I love bamboo and silver, so it's like the ultimate combination. 50% bamboo, 40% silver, 10% spandex, blocks harmful EMF, 99.99% within the range of 10 megahertz to 10 gigahertz, 35 to 40 decibel attenuation. Protect your brainium by wrapping your cranium in a Faraday shield. Protect your gonads too. They have blankets, scarves. Use our affiliate link over here so that you're supporting their company and our show at the same time. And don't forget to use promo code CENSORED for 10% off. And send us pictures wearing your newfangled tinfoil hats so we could show them off because they're really cool and awesome. Just a reminder also, we'll be reading Rumble Rants if anybody is so inclined. And you can also support the show by hitting that big, beautiful join button and signing up as a monthly member for $5. You can also sign up on Subscribestar and Locals to support the broadcast. Anybody who commits to support the show monthly automatically is granted entry into the info infantry at the level of a commissioned officer in the branch of your choosing: Army, Navy, Marines, Space Force, Air Force, Coast Guard, meme cannon cavalry. And anybody who Rumble Rants or donates via Cash App, Venmo, Google Pay, here's a QR code for Cash App, for instance. Automatic entry into the info infantry branch of your choosing as warrant officer. But the most important thing you can do is just share the broadcast. So take a couple seconds, click the link, copy and paste it into social media, online forums, anywhere around the interwebs. Share the broadcast. Let us know you shared it. And one share entitles you to a rank as an enlisted fighter in the info infantry, the branch of your choosing. So thanks again for supporting the show and keeping us on air. Appreciate it bigly, and I rely on you guys to keep the show active. So let's jump into our next topics over Nya with some new policy proposals from the Don. Some tremendous ideas from Donald J. Trump. This is huge. Trump announces his plan to cut the cost of purchasing a new home by half. He will also prohibit illegal aliens from receiving mortgages. Regulations alone are 30% of the cost of a new home. That's right. Red tape screws up everything in this country. Regulations, middlemen, the mortgages, the housing market, the medical industry, also bloated costs from just 100 middlemen in between you and your doctor that don't need to be there. So regulations alone are 30% of the cost of a new home passed on to the home buyer. This will be gone. Again, I emphasize Trump's SCOTUS picks have demolished the bureaucratic and economic roadblocks in the way. This is posted by MJ Truth Ultra at MJ Truth Ultra on X. Trump pledges to open up large portions of federal land for large-scale housing construction. These homes will be ultra-low taxed and ultra-low regulated. 10 new liberty, freedom cities, he said, right? There's vast swathes of the country that are completely empty, just nature. You know, they try to trick people into thinking humans are evil and a scourge on the planet, cancer on the planet, so that they can convince us to accept the depopulation agenda. Oh, humans are bad. I know so many people, even people in my family, who are like, oh, humans are bad and evil. I don't care if they're depopulated. It's like, yeah, you're a victim of a psyop convincing you that you're bad. And so this illusion is easily acceptable by the masses because people live in suburbs or in cities, and there's houses and people as far as the eye can see, especially in cities. But when you go up in an airplane and you fly over the country, you see that in reality, most of it is just nature. And there's plenty of room for all of us. So we need to develop new houses, get rid of all this red tape and regulation garbage that artificially increases prices. It's everybody. Nobody wants to do any work, so they all just get involved as middlemen to steal a little bit of money in the process, and which all gets passed on to the buyers. So, continuing here, we cannot ignore the flood of 21 million illegal aliens also driving up housing costs. We have soldiers and veterans sleeping on the streets. Trump's plan will prohibit illegals from receiving any mortgages, unlike California right now, who's trying to give like $150,000 for mortgages to illegals. And what was it, Oregon also, that just is passing legislation to give like $30,000 loans for house payments or something up there. It's ridiculous. Let's check out these clips from Trump delivering remarks on the economy in New York City. Great New York City. We love New York. At least we used to. Hopefully we can restore it to its former glory.
Young people will be able to buy a home again and be a part of the American dream. We will eliminate regulations that drive up housing costs with the goal of cutting the cost of a new home in half. We think we can do that. The regulations alone cost 30%. Regulation costs 30% of a new home.
It's insane.
And we will open up portions of federal land for large-scale housing construction. These zones will be ultra-low tax and ultra-low regulation. One of the great, really small business job creation programs it will be of all time. We're going to open up our country to building homes inexpensively so young people and other people can buy homes.
That's what we need. We need young people to be able to buy homes again. Nobody can afford anything. Massive proportions of recent college graduates living at home with parents still. Nobody's buying houses. Nobody can afford anything as we're all squeezed and the dollar's devalued and the price of everything is skyrockets while real wages go down. Bob the Comedian 1. Welcome to the chat. Nice to meet you. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to earn your viewership. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you will be notified every day during the week when we go live at 6:45-ish Eastern Time. Thanks again for being here.
Buy them anymore. Millions of Americans will take part in setting these safe and beautiful communities, reviving
Let's do it.
The frontier spirit, and really, as I said, reviving the American dream. It's about the American dream. It's all about the American dream. We don't talk about American dream with these people in office. They don't want to talk about the American dream.
Thanks, Bob.
Because they're the exact opposite. They're the exact opposite. We also cannot ignore the impact that the flood of 21 million illegal aliens has had on driving up housing costs. That's why my plan will ban mortgages for illegal aliens in California. They're passing a law where they're going to give illegal aliens money to buy a house. But our soldiers, our veterans that are laying on the streets, they can't have them. You have soldiers right now laying on the streets of different cities, all Democrat run. They're laying on the streets in front of hotels, in some cases luxury hotels. And you have illegal immigrants coming in and living in those hotels and laughing at our soldiers as they walk by into a luxury lobby. Is there something wrong with that thinking? Is there something wrong with our country? If Kamala is allowed to continue to let our country be invaded, we will face a fiscal Armageddon. These migrants are consuming hundreds of billions of dollars in benefits.
Hundreds of billions of dollars. It's insane. We cannot allow this to continue. J.D. Vance also posting some more information from the same speech in New York. Huge news, J.D. You misspelled Y-U-G-E. Huge news. President Trump announces his new policy plan to cut taxes for companies that create jobs in America and raise tariffs on corporations shipping our jobs overseas. Unlike Kamala Harris, we're going to put America first once again. That's right. Tax cuts for companies making jobs in America. I like that. Let's reverse that great sucking sound and turn it into a great blowing sound. Is blowing the opposite of sucking? I don't know. It's getting weird over here. Let's just watch this video.
To further support the revival of American manufacturing, my plan calls for expanded R&D tax credits, 100% bonus depreciation, expensing for new manufacturing investments, and a reduction in the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15% solely for companies that make their product in America.
Nice.
You have to make your product in America. If you outsource, offshore, or replace American workers, you're not eligible for any of these benefits. In fact, you will pay a very substantial tariff that comes in from another country, that's made in another country and comes in. There'll be a big tariff on that product because we want to make our goods in America, and most of them we can. My message is simple. Make your product here in America, and only in America.
Or we will crush you with tariffs. Bob the comedian, holy balls, this is funny. I think Trump should give Kamala a red MAGA hat at the debates since she's copying his policies as far as no tax on tips, border wall, etc. Hilarious, Bob. No wonder you're a comedian. Oh man, that's genius. Here, Kamala, I've brought you a hat since you're stealing all my policies, trying to take my voters. Nobody's buying it, Kamala.
We are not going to be taken advantage of anymore, just as we made great inroads and progress 4 years ago. We made tremendous inroads on this subject. We're not going to watch our wealth and jobs get ripped away from us and sent to foreign countries, which is what's been happening for many, many decades with us. China was built on doing exactly what we're going to be doing and what I started doing 4 years ago. What we're putting forward is the most pro-American manufacturing and jobs policy in modern history for any country. This plan will bring jobs and growth into our country at levels never seen before. Every business on earth will flock to America from Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and all over the world.
Crazy. It would be great. It'd be great. Smart economic policies. Good stuff. DC Drano summing it up over here at DC_Drano. Trump makes major tax policy announcement. We'll cut federal taxes even more. We'll make Trump tax cuts permanente. No tax on tips. No tax on Social Security benefits. That's a huge one. They take it through taxes, and then when they pay it back, they take taxes out on it again. It already is all tax money, right? Effectively. Also plans to send Kamala a special MAGA hat since she keeps copying Trump's idea. Bob, are you stealing jokes? No, I'm just kidding. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Let's check out this clip.
The fifth pillar of my plan is to make the Trump tax cuts permanent.
Yeah.
They are massive tax cuts, biggest ever, permanent.
Yeah, Bob.
And to cut taxes even more, and we will have no tax on tips, something which they copied 4 weeks after I said it. She got up and said, no tax on tips. I said, I just said that. She is actually copying a lot of my plan. In fact, we're going to send her a MAGA cap sometime in the next week. We're having a special one made.
Oh, my God, dude.
But we also know she doesn't mean it. She's going to stick with what her whole life has been about. And also, no tax on Social Security benefits. People on Social Security have been wiped out by inflation, and now on top of it, we tax their benefits. We're not going to tax their benefits. The fifth...
Right. You pay Social Security. Let's say you've been paying since 1980, for instance, into Social Security. Now you're retired, and you're getting that money back, except, oops, sorry, all that money has been devalued drastically over the time period since you started paying in. So they're giving you your money back at a much lower value. It's pure evil, guys. It's theft. It's criminal. It's messed up. 1976. There you go, Bob. Right in the right area, right in the right time frame. So yeah, you're getting money paid back that you paid in now that it's been devalued and ruined. So you should be extremely mad. Everybody should be extremely mad. Like network, I want you to get mad. You know? So Wayne Allen Root over here at Gateway Pundit with an op-ed. No tax on Social Security is how President Trump wins the senior vote. No tax on overtime is how the Trump wins the workers of America. That's fucking crazy. No tax on overtime would be epic. That people would want to work more, which is exactly what we need to rebuild the great engine of economic production that America once had. Economic and industrial production, producing not only value and productivity but products themselves, which has been taken from us, destroying our productive capacity and our independence simultaneously. And so he's got an idea here, Wayne Allen Root, of how Trump can win the youth vote. I saw this and I thought, ooh, federal marijuana legalization, that would be the entire youth vote would go instantaneously to Donald Trump with that. But nope, he's got a different idea over here. Let's just read through this. This commentary will be short and simple. Wayne Allen Root went to Columbia the same time as Obama, was there when Cloward and Piven were teaching their strategy for destroying the... No way, Cheddar. No way. I don't believe you. Is that true? If it's true, stay strapped. Stay strapped, Brostein. And thanks also for signing up to support the show on commoncensored.locals.com. Appreciate you, Cheddar Steve and Channel 2 Action News for signing up a couple days ago. And another big shout out to Mandy J. Lawson dropping a big money bomb on us over in Cash App. Thanks again, Mandy. We love Mandy. Mandy's the best. Loki, what's the matter over there? Tweet. Anyway, winning presidential elections is about addition, not subtraction. President Trump needs to build a winning coalition, so this election is, quote, too big to rig. He has MAGA. Now he needs record numbers of other voters. Yesterday, I laid out my recommendation for some creative idea to add millions of new voters to the Trump coalition. President Trump already has no tax on tips, and my idea for no tax on Social Security for seniors. Those two ideas give Trump a huge edge with 10+ million service employees and 60+ million seniors. And this isn't just some random dude talking over here. Wayne Allen Root is like buddies with Trump and has been for decades. So he's talking to Trump. Trump probably literally took his idea for no tax on Social Security for seniors and implemented it in that speech. Oh, there were your cleaning ladies, Cheddar Steve. That's hilarious, bro. Hilarious. So those two ideas give Trump a huge edge with 10+ million service employees and 60+ million seniors. I recommend making them retroactive so the tax savings or refund gets into the hands of taxpayers who are stressed and strapped for cash because of Biden, Kamala Harris inflation as soon as possible. No tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. Retroactive, that would be big, instant money for people who need it. Waitresses who've been paying tax on tips for years unjustly, give them that money back. Give them the money back. I recommend making them retroactive. Yeah. Then I recommended a new idea, perhaps my favorite of all time, quote, no tax on overtime. This benefits over 130 million American workers. The bonus is this idea puts America back to work again. It supercharges the economy, productivity, and prosperity. I also recommended President Trump the idea of a, quote, military veteran tax credit, rewarding all 16 million U.S. military vets with a $2,000 annual tax credit as a thank you for serving their country. Least you could do. This would look exactly like the current child tax given to parents. Do it. Genius. Now I'm going to add one more group to the Trump coalition. College students and young adults still paying off student loan debt. This group consists of 43.2 million Americans. The Biden-Kamala Harris administration keeps trying to bribe this large group by erasing their student loan debt with a stroke of a pen. How ridiculous, reckless, and dangerous. Mas peligroso. And courts rightfully keep blocking this crazy idea. How insulting and offensive to all those who already paid off their student loan debt. Yeah, talk about it. How insulting and offensive to all those who never went to college to ask them to pay the debt of people who willingly made that choice to go into debt and willingly entered into their student loan contract and then take the money from the people who avoided that debt entirely and make them pay for it. Pure evil. How insulting and offensive to any American who has ever signed any contract and honorably paid it off. The idea of individual responsibility being a touchstone of American philosophy. What's next? Government erasing credit card debt, mortgage debt, auto debt? So how can President Trump compete for the votes of young adults without resorting to outright thievery and bribery? I have the solution. President Trump should announce when he returns to the White House, the government will offer interest-free student loans. Yes! Get rid of the usury. Get rid of the usury. Usury is pure evil. It's pure evil. We need to stop the interest, just generally speaking. Isn't that like a big deal in the Bible? The money changers and usury and think about it. Stop the interest. This is the fair way to encourage Americans to get educated and at the same time give them a great deal and reduce their burden when paying it back. There's no, quote, free ride. No one is breaking a contract. Every student that signs for student loans must repay it. No excuses. But they only have to pay back principal, not interest. This doesn't cost the government or taxpayers a penny. Once the principal is paid back, everyone is whole. The students will be happy. The taxpayers will be happy. Everyone wins. Nobody loses. It's such a great deal. It will encourage every young American to take advantage and get educated. We all win. But we also need to, fix the corrupt leftist college indoctrination systems that are all over the country. Bob the comedian go after government-funded schools and the money they hold on to and keep upping tuition. Yeah, for real. And of course, President Trump wins. Like tax cuts plan above, this should also be retroactive. These are government loans. The government can do anything it wants. They can cancel all that interest. No student loan debt will ever be erased again. But all outstanding loans will be converted to principal only, with interest dropped from the contract. Again, as long as the principal is paid back, the government is made whole. There are no losses for the government or taxpayers, and there are no free rides. And my idea makes it far more likely that all these loans, by 42 plus million Americans, will be paid back in full and on time. Here's the best part of all. Trump's winning coalition is now 10 plus million service employees, 60 plus million seniors, 130 plus million workers, 16 plus million military vets, 42 million plus young adults with student loan debt. Let's see Kamala heels up Kamala Harris beat that winning hand. As we say in Vegas, that's a full house, baby. Yeah, check out Wayne's TV show, The Root Reaction, weeknights, 10 p.m. Eastern Pacific, 7 p.m. Pacific on Real America's Voice TV. And he has a weekend show, America's Top 10 Countdown, countdown. Sorry, I can't talk all of a sudden. Saturdays at noon and 9 a.m. Pacific on Real America's Voice TV, RealAmericasVoice.com, Rumble, Roku, Pluto, Apple, Dish TV, Channel 219, or go to Root4America.com to watch. I recommend it. Wayne Allen Root is a smart dude, and he's been around. He's been around for a long time and has some really good ideas, and he's good buddies with Trump, so you're getting like an inside track for sure when you're listening to what Wayne Allen Root has to say. Let's see what we got next on the list. Let's jump over to Benny Johnson on X here. Trump saying, let's let Trump speak for himself.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Summing it up, basically.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris formed the worst presidency and vice presidency by far in the history of our country. This election will decide whether we reward Kamala Harris with re-election and 4 more years of crime, economic calamity, and international humiliation, or whether we change that direction and once again build the greatest economy in the history of the world, which we had during the Trump administration.
Let's go! Let's change the direction. Make America great again, make America healthy again. I like this idea, these ideas, these new economic ideas. We need to bring the jobs back. So cut taxes for companies making jobs and products here in America. That's huge. That's huge. In order for us to truly be independent and not be forced into submitting to the global communist New World Order, global government system, we need to be able to make our own products. We need to be able to produce our own food. We need self-sufficiency. Otherwise, when we're internationally dependent, we are forced to submit to terms of other countries, which hurts us in the long run. And this is the purpose that they orchestrated this plan to outsource our production capacity to China, our food production to other countries. This was a strategic attack to weaken the U.S. and hurt our independence. So finally, people are waking up to it all. Help spread the word and share this information out there. Use hashtag Common Censored and hashtag Info Infantry when you share the show. Let us know you shared it so we can give you ranks and promotions in the Info Infantry, guys. Colin Rugg over here, how about this? New Mark Cuban gets flustered and says no 16 times after CNBC host Rebecca Quick said Kamala is just telling people what they want to hear. No. Plug your ears, Mark. The no comment came after Cuban said Harris's plan to tax unrealized gains would crash the stock market. Yeah, Cuban then assured the hosts that the Harris campaign told him they realize that taxing unrealized gains is an issue. Let's check out the clip. Yeah, taxing unrealized gains is, well, you guys already know what it is. It's pure.
100% evil.
Yeah, you can't tax unrealized gains. This is not communist China, and no money's even been made. So you calm down before my blood pressure spikes too much over here, because my shrink would not like that. Of course, I'm just joking. I like this meme though.
My shrink's not gonna like that.
All right, let's check out this clip.
On this unrealized tax issue, gain issue,
yeah, for real,
and where we've talked about, those who are taking loans against their unrealized stock, et cetera, et cetera. And then they say, well, if you start to tax that, we won't be able to make investments in startups. We won't be able to give money over to venture capitalists.
Yeah, exactly. Big as life. Technically, it's not taxable. It's not a gain. You're absolutely right. Supreme Court defines a income as gain derived by corporate activity. So, like, if you buy a bunch of products in bulk, you break them down into individual packages, you sell them at a markup, you actually make a gain. There's a profit. But when you go to work, your labor and wages, you trade 8 hours of work in a day for 8 hours worth of wages. There's no gain. It's an even exchange. So it's not income. It's not liable to be taxed. The 16th Amendment was never even ratified. And even if it had been ratified and income tax was legal, it's not income. So there's no justification. You're actually being tricked into volunteering to pay income taxes. The Internal Revenue Code says that it's based on voluntary compliance. When you funnel your labor and wages through your Social Security corporation that's in your name, all caps, when your name on your Social Security card, capitis diminutio maxima, indicating that it represents a corporation. When you give your Social Security to your employer, they put your labor, your wages through the Social Security corporation. It becomes a gain for that corporation, and then it's classified as income. So you're getting duped and tricked by employers who are idiots, who are forcing you to volunteer to pay income tax on your labor and wages as terms of employment, because oftentimes there are federal, benefits that they get for participating in the whole Social Security scam system. Let's restart this video because I want to comment on some of this.
On this unrealized tax issue, gain issue, and where we've talked about, those who are taking loans against their unrealized stock, et cetera, and then they say, well, if you start to tax that, we won't be able to make investments in startups. We won't be able to give money over to venture capitalists and private equity folks and other things like that. What's your feedback to that distinction? Because I wonder, once there's a critique of one, then of one policy, and you get rid of that policy, then of course,
nice bracelets, weirdo.
Of course, it moves to the critique of the next version of it.
Well, of course, but okay. So what I told him was, if you tax unrealized gains, you're going to kill the stock market.
Wow, Mark Cuban actually saying something that makes sense for once.
Right, and it's going to be the ultimate employment plan for private equity, because companies are not going to go public because you can get whipsawed, right? I mean, my own personal experience back from the internet days, right? All of a sudden, I was cash poor, but equity rich, right? My net worth was enormous, but the number of dollars in the bank wasn't enormous. And so I'd have, based off of the unrealized gains, I would have had to borrow money, and I effectively would have been in hock just to pay my tax bill instead of trying to run my company, and 1,000 other reasons, right?
Lady Hamilton Art, welcome. Good to see you in the chat. I see Billdozer over there too. Make sure, guys, to go subscribe to Lady Hamilton Art on Rumble. Check out her school if you have kids that are high school age. HamiltonLibertyAcademy.com. Give your kids a good education. Get them out of the federal indoctrination system. Also, check out Billdozer74 on Rumble. Billdozer74. He'll be broadcasting tonight, 9:30 Central Time. So make sure to head on over to Billdozer74 and tune in tonight. Here's his channel over on Rumble. Big ups to Billdozer. If you guys like this show, you'll like his show. Talking about all kinds of similar stuff. And he's just a good dude. So go over there, support him. Support Lady Hamilton Art as well. Here we go. Boom. We love both these people, both these channels. So give them some support. Hop over there and support Lady Hamilton Art and Billdozer74. Thanks again for being here, everybody. Let's get back into this video.
So they realize that's the issue. I can't repeat it enough. Even though she's not directly conflicting the Biden tax plan, to her value proposition is we need to tax everybody fairly. I'm starting from the Biden plan as a starting point, but that's not necessarily her ending
Mark,
point.
let me just say, I appreciate you calling in, telling us what you're hearing on these fronts. That's great. But as you've said yourself, you can't speak for the vice president. These are things they're telling you. Who knows what they're telling other people? My guess is they're telling anybody who's donating to them exactly what they want to hear at this point. What matters is what they say publicly and what they will stick to.
No, absolutely, positively not. Right. Let me just be very clear.
I don't know. Why do you think that they're telling you the truth and not telling other people other things?
Well,
if they won't say it publicly, say it publicly. Tell all of us so that we can hold you to it.
I get it, but you've got to get the details right. You can't just...
Yeah, but we have 60 days till an election. Like, you're asking people to take a flyer.
Even if it's the day before the election, right? Even if it's the day before. Look, The next question is, the second thing I was going to mention earlier.
I just don't want everybody to trade on what we think and what we feel and what we think may happen.
Exactly.
Just tell us.
I get your point exactly, right?
The left is a total shit show, guys. A total shit show. So yeah, taxing unrealized gains is pure lunacy. Pure, unadulterated, complete insanity. We cannot do that. Cannot do that. It's un-American, pure commie evil. I say volcanoes for people pushing that type of stuff after due process, of course. Let's jump over to the Hodge twins. At Hodge twins on X. Putting illegals ahead of real Americans is treason. I think treason technically is when you're supporting an enemy during a time of war. But I mean, basically that's what's going on. There is an illegal invasion, which is effectively a war on the country. So yeah, we'll go with it. Reposting Breaking 911 at Breaking 911. Chuck Lizard Person Schumer. The only way we're going to have a great future in America, effectively, is granting citizenship to millions of illegals. These people, man, these people are, they know exactly what they're doing. And they hate you and all of us.
The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
However many there are, even if there's 500 million, just however many there are, just make them legals. Make them. Who cares how many there are? No, they came here breaking the law, knowing what they were doing. Screw them. Send them back home. We love legal immigrants. We want people with skills and things to provide in this meritocracy to help make America great. But we don't want a bunch of illegals coming over here and leeching off the system and stealing positions and housing from American citizens. So no, screw you, Schumer. There's no cure for his condition, as you guys well know already, for sure.
There's no cure for being a cunt.
Yeah. He's freaking crazy, spelled C-U-N-T. Let's hop over to another little post here with Chucky Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, Polydent Piss Pants Pelosi. Johnny Midnight posted this one at its_the_dr. This photo was taken in 1987. That's the year I was born. Both Schumer and Pelosi were in Congress and blamed Reagan for all of our problems. 30, this was an old meme, clearly. 37 years later today, which I know because I was born in 1987. And I'm 37, I think. 37 years later, both Schumer and Pelosi are still in Congress and are still blaming others for all of our problems. Talk about projection. You've been there forever. It's all your fault, guys. Look at these two evil lizard people in a pod. Two lizards in a pod, if that makes any sense. Let's check out some crazy stuff next. Let's have a little bit of fun and hop over to Redacted, who did another cool interview with secret space program researcher Michael Salla. Let's hear the introduction, then we'll jump ahead to 6 minutes where they begin talking about crazy stuff going on in Antarctica.
Defense. Well, the Department of Defense has a new director this morning, a new director put in charge of AARO, which is an office in charge of investigating UFOs and UAPs. Yes.
And this could be good news. It could be a direction towards disclosure with this new guy, as they'll get into.
The Department of Defense has just announced their new director, and it's a curious choice because he's a former NSA scientist, and the NSA has deep connections to the cover-up and the secrecy surrounding these projects. So will we see truth now? Will truth finally hit the airwaves? Will we learn about all of these black projects that the government has been carrying out for many, many decades? Or will there be more of a cover-up? Let's ask one of the most well-respected ufologists in the world. That is Dr. Michael Salla, author of many incredible books on these programs. And he writes at exopolitics.org. And Michael joins us now. Doctor, great to see you as always. Welcome back to the show.
Great to be here, Clayton.
So what did you make of this new appointment at Arrow? First of all, maybe you can set the stage for our audience that isn't familiar with Arrow. If they're sitting there saying, oh, this is all craziness. This isn't actually an office in the United States government. What does Arrow do specifically, AARO?
Well, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office was set up in 2002 to study UFO reports, or UAPs as they are now known in the...
We're not playing along with the UAP terminology. I say UFO. They want to redefine it in their terms, the new modern establishment. Nope, not having it. It's UFOs. So yeah, this new guy could be really good, could help push things in the direction towards disclosure, as they discover in more detail in the first 6 minutes of the broadcast. But we're going to jump ahead to 6 minutes where they start getting into some of this crazy Antarctica stuff, which is nuts. Oh yeah, Joe Frey, 2008. Boom. Your brother as well, of course. Of course. Let's hear what they're saying about this crazy interstellar trading outpost down in Antarctica. Stargate style, man. It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible.
He was involved with the CIA. He was a research scientist with them. So he kind of embodied that institutional ethos, if you like, which is that, we know best and we're going to keep everything under wraps. And the CIA has long been the lead agency in covering all this up. Whereas the NSA is a very different institution. It's more closely aligned with the military mindset. And I think that the people in the NSA, that they actually would probably be more inclined to revealing more of the truth to the general public, but doing it in a way which is very graduated, very responsible. They don't want to do anything that shocks the American public or creates civil unrest, but certainly reveal enough so that people start paying attention and prepare them for so much more that needs to be revealed.
So last summer, they were working on forming a review board. There was this big movement in Congress with a lizard person. Schumer was involved. But what's his face? The Kentucky rep. Man, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. But a bunch of good people trying to create this review board to force companies within the military-industrial complex to the comb down and over is it's pretty good. Pretty good trop. But they were trying to force these military-industrial complex companies to disclose to the federal government technology and information that they've acquired from reverse engineering alien artifacts and crafts. And so effectively what Michael Salla and all these people have been reporting on for decades is that there's this ongoing black budget secret operations and partially private run operations where they've been, like Bob Lazar talking about reverse engineering the sport model, one of 3 craft at the S4 Groom Lake facility in Nevada, figuring out that it uses element 115 to create anti-gravity propulsion. These companies in the military industrial complex have been doing this for decades, discovering all this technology, reverse engineering crazy stuff. Apparently fiber optics in itself may be something reverse engineered from Roswell. But they're figuring out all this stuff. I disagree, Trop. Bob Lazar, I think, is legit. His story has been consistent the whole time. I've seen body language analyses of his body language. He's open. No crossing, etc. No indications of deception. He goes into greater detail than asked when he's asked questions, which is something that if you're lying, you want to avoid detail because you can get busted on the details. Lazar is legit, in my opinion. But so they were going to force these companies to disclose this stuff to the federal government and then allow the government to have a review board to disclose this stuff to the public. Of course, it all got shut down and didn't go anywhere, just like I predicted. But we really need that to happen. And I forget the point that I was making with that, but it seems like there's some stuff in Antarctica that needs to be disclosed. I'll say that.
So I think what's really fascinating, I want to talk about the Antarctica connection here, the Antarctica base. I've been long fascinated by the massive underground city, the massive underground military complex that's in Antarctica that's kept off limits. Like if you go there on a cruise with your family, you will only be allowed to see a portion of Antarctica. You will not be allowed to see any further into these secure locations. As whistleblowers have pointed out for decades, they have been involved with managing interstellar trade out of Antarctica, according to Navy whistleblowers.
Interstellar trade.
According to me. So keep your hate messages away. These are from Navy whistleblowers who've come forward. Spartan 1 and 2. And also we have Dan Sherman, whistleblower Dan Sherman from the U.S. Air Force, also who's confirmed these Antarctica doings now. And the NSA runs the office for managing interstellar trade, if I understand that, out of Antarctica. Can you, I mean, for somebody listening right now who's sitting there, their mind is blown. Wait a minute, we have a base in Antarctica and we're running interstellar trade out of there and the NSA is involved in that? I mean, that sounds like fantasy.
Man, I think it's probably true. Probably true. Trading with, who knows, reptilians, grays, the 12-foot tall mantis insect beings reported by abductees who wake up on a slab in some kind of spacecraft with members of the U.S. Air Force and 12-foot tall giant green mantis aliens looking over them. I've been saying for a while, I think that that Stargate may be predictive programming, that we could have similar technology that allows interstellar travel, and it's possible, man. It's possible. The things that are unknown are unimaginable potentially. After a couple decades of researching into this stuff, the reports out there of the technology and things going on are nuts. Like, how about remember a couple of years ago, the former defense minister of Israel, I can't remember his name, but he said that there is a, quote, a galactic federation, and that Trump is aware of it, and that we have like agreements with them. So if that's true, it could make sense that Antarctica would be a trading post for interstellar trade with this galactic federation, since it's so isolated and it's easier to land on the poles than it is in other places, and everything like that. So who knows, man? Yeah, 0-point energy, wormholes, ZPMs. Ashton's going to be on with Candace. Nice. Good to know. Joe Frey, 2008. They are not aliens, demons in disguise. We'll have to agree to disagree on that one, Joe, but anything's possible. I'm not discounting it for sure. Donna, person of interest, X-Files, etc. Stargate, lots of real crazy predictive programming in X-Files for sure. And I think that a lot of the things that people think are aliens, are actually our secret technology. So there is a lot of stuff out there that's not aliens, that's us. And then there may be aliens that are intraterrestrials coming from inside the planet from deep underground. And then there may be the Galactic Federation of interstellar entities that we deal with. Rush album 2112, Galactic Federation. Nice. I'm going to have to look into that. Rush is epic. Great band.
Yeah, well, the NSA has been involved in tracking and monitoring UFO activity ever since its inception in 1952. In fact, that was probably one of the prime reasons why it was set up, signals intelligence, that the NSA has developed the capability to detect the appearance of UFOs anywhere over the Earth. And what has been found in studies is that wherever there's UFO activity, there's often a burst of gamma wave activity or gamma electromagnetic waves. And so the NSA has been able to set up a worldwide monitoring system where they can detect the appearance of UFOs anywhere on Earth. And so they've been detecting UFOs down in Antarctica for decades. There are reports on these UFO activities near Antarctica. And we know that the NSA has been monitoring signals traffic from Antarctica for a long time, as they do all over the world. But what's very interesting was these many reports about activities in Antarctica from various whistleblowers suggesting that there was a base there. And there were two whistleblowers that came forward, and they first reported this to Linda Moulton Howe, a veteran UFO researcher. They were called Spartan 1 and Spartan 2, and they said that there was a interstellar trading base in Antarctica that was run out of the headquarters for the National Security Agency in Fort Meade, Maryland, out of the 6th floor. So this is where it becomes very interesting why Dr. Kozlowski has been loaned by the NSA to run the Arrow office for a period, because he's there on detail. I mean, he hasn't been permanently moved to the Arrow office. He's there. He's an NSA scientist. And the thing is, he is aware or would be aware of a lot of this, because clearly his job in monitoring UFO activity would give him need to know about whatever records the NSA has on UFO activity. So this is where he very likely will be briefed or has been briefed about this office at the NSA running this interstellar trade out of Antarctica. And he also probably is very familiar with the testimony of Dan Sherman, who was a 12-year Air Force veteran who was seconded to the NSA to monitor communications with these grey extraterrestrials on behalf of the NSA. So the NSA has been tracking UFO activity. They've been tracking and communicating with extraterrestrial civilizations, and that they also run a interstellar trading base out of Antarctica.
Insane. And apparently this within the military industrial complex, these private companies, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, etc., have discovered, reverse engineered, located all kinds of crazy technology that they've kept secret even from the government. So last year, that whole thing with trying to create the review board was trying to force these companies to disclose these technologies to the government, so that then they could declassify that stuff and reveal it to the rest of the people. Just kind of interesting, man. Just kind of interesting. Definitely check out the rest of this video when you guys have a chance. Really neat watch here. Boom, just posted it in the chat for you guys. Let's jump over to another planet. At least it looks like it should be another planet. It's actually just California, aka Fettyland. This is it's messed up, but take a look at what's going on over in California right now.
Man, this some new shit out here, man. This that shit. I'm talking about make you lean.
Guys,
you
bent
ever
over
seen
backwards.
A motherfucker leaning like this, man? Never in the world. Welcome to LA, man. Welcome to Fetty Land. Fetty Land. Fetty motherfucking land, boy. Nigga back so broke, I don't think he'll never be right, man. Hey, go see if you could do this, man. Let's make this the new car tester. Fetty Lane, man. See if your body can do this. This man is finna break his goddamn back, man. Out for more.
Crazy. And Matt Wallace posted this earlier also. Speaking of California, anybody have any other information about this? Is this real? Developing massive cracks in the ground are starting to form beneath Los Angeles, California. Is LA going to be thrown off into the ocean and cast out entirely? What the hell's going on over here?
Slides, instability. This morning, the Rancho Palos Verdes area is facing new obstacles.
Yeah, another neighborhood on the peninsula has lost power.
You can see all those cracks, and basically the whole road is like this. And at this point in the road, there's been a mud and debris flow, some downed trees, slides in.
So hardcore. Cheddar Steve says, yeah, man, Palos Verdes is on the move again. It's normal, though. Wow. Yeah, tulip McGroin. My favorite kind of McGroin, the one with 2 lips. Yeah, maybe California will be tossed into the ocean and sink like Atlantis, punishment for all of their bad behavior out there. How's the crevasse in Africa doing? Good question, Bill. Fault line just straight up splitting Africa in half. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. Let's see what we got next. We have a post over here talking from Black Insurrectionist at DocNet YouTube. Apparently there's some big situation with Tenet Media and claims that they've received a whopping $10 million from the Russian government to publish content as part of a Russian influence operation using influencers like Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, and Dave Rubin working for them. Yeah. So Black Insurrectionist over here responding to this situation. I just called my source in D.C., asked him about the story that Tenet Media, who has influencers like Benny, Tim Pool, and Dave Rubin working for them, has allegedly received $10 million from the Russian government to push content as part of a Russian influence operation. Those pesky Russians. His quote to me was very short and dramatic. Quote, "This is the beginning of the narrative that social media needs government regulation." He also said this would not be the end of the story and that Elon Musk and X have been specifically targeted by the United States government. So on top of trying to influence the election, this bullshit story is meant to try and curb free speech on the X platform. I would also like to point out, thanks to at the Gill Report, Steve Gill, that sitting next to Garland when he made this announcement is none other than Lisa Monaco. I'm sure you guys have heard that name before, who was instrumental in getting 51 intelligence officers to sign the Hunter laptop Russian disinformation letter. Here she is. Good old corrupt Lisa Monaco, allegedly. Also, her, who suffers from that affliction from which there is just no cure.
There's no cure for being a cunt.
So interesting stuff. Kelly says, I want to be clear. This is part of a coordinated plan. It is not a coincidence that Pavel Durov, founder of Telegram, was recently arrested in France. The election was stolen from Trump and also Jair Bolsonaro in Brazil. The total tentacles, the tentacles of this evil are beyond what we can even imagine. Yeah, it's probably true. 100%, Black Insurrectionist replies. Oh, so $10 million from Russia. Oh no, 10 million? 10 million is like a drop in the bucket compared to the DNC machine. And, Putin just came out and said he supports Kamala. So, take that with a grain of salt. He could just be trolling with that statement. But, just insane. They're always trying to drum up some kind of fake Russia bullshit. So not surprising. Ron Paul talking about the whole situation as well on the Liberty Report earlier today. Here we go again. He says, for the third straight election in a row, Russia is being accused of interfering in our democracy. Many will remember the last time around, more than 50 former intelligence officials signed a letter denouncing the Hunter Biden laptop as, quote, Russian disinformation, or at least having the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. It wasn't. And even big tech censored the story. Yet here we are with Russia once again. And they had some good information in here. I can't remember what the timestamp was, though.
Interference. Our elections are messed up pretty bad, but they want to deflect. It can't be us here. It's them over there, thousands of miles away. And, today, Putin even publicly made it, I think it was today or yesterday, but I saw the video today. He made a joke that I wanted to read, and, it just shows what our democracy, it's a joke, even around the world. Here's what he said, quote, "If we can name a favorite candidate, it used to be Joe Biden, but now he's not participating in the election campaign, and he's recommended to all his allies to support Miss Harris. So that is what we are going to do." So he's saying the Russians are going to support Harris. He's obviously trolling us, our government. It's a joke what's going on, and we're just reporting on it. I don't know what the solution is here, but it's not good.
No, but we have to keep searching for it. Yeah.
That's Chris Rossini, Dr. Paul's occasional co-host and co-worker.
And, we complain a lot, and we're justified in doing that, on how disruptive the system is and how people use the media. But I think they've been doing that for a long time. But what we should point out also, that we're still able to use the media to our benefit. And I think we can get more attention, because when people say, all I want to hear is the truth, that I think they sense that when they turn into our program, that we don't pretend we know everything, but we tend to think that working to finding the truth is most important, especially in foreign policy. Think of all the mistakes that we have made, and all this nonsense in Ukraine, all the nonsense and lying about the monetary system, and trying to fluff over it. So I think that we can get that information out, but it's been able to before, because at the beginning of our country, it was done by just writing pieces of paper.
Not surprising. Houndin' McGroin. Good to see you. I've seen you around throughout the show, but figured be nice to give you a little shout out. Yeah, dude, if they're going after Discord too, would not surprise me. They can't allow communities like our Discord and others to form behind the scenes and be used to accelerate and exacerbate the Great Awakening. They're going to have to crack down on everything.
It's spreading around.
So make sure to join the Common Censored Think Tank Brain Bank. Mama Mac will post a link in the chat, and I think there's one in the description already, too.
Because ideas are important. And right now, more and more people are looking for the answer. Yesterday, we talked about how the dumbest thing in the world was all the Republican leaders and Democrat leaders were saying, oh, don't let, what we have to do is make sure that we don't allow a foreign company to buy U.S. steel. And of course, yesterday we pointed out, there's tremendous benefits from it. They've accumulated dollars. They sold us stuff. They're investing back here, and they even wanted to buy up a plant that needed some help. And it turned around for the superficial nonsense in the political system is showing, oh no, that's protect, we have to protect our workers. And so both unions and business people went along this, and they say, let's close it down. And today we hear the president will absolutely, prohibit that. You say, well, maybe next year we'll get a new president. But he already endorses the position of Biden on this, because they don't believe in and have confidence in the principles of liberty and the principles of the marketplace. So this is one reason why we have to continue to expose as much of the truth that we can find and verify it. And right now, it's everywhere. Look at what they're trying to do with X. They want to take him off the air. One thing that came out of that nonsense and accusation back in 2016 and 17 is they took RT off. And believe me, I've been interviewed on RT a long time, for many years. And of course,
RT, Russia Today. My friend Adam Kokesh used to have a show on there, Adam versus the Man. Good show.
No longer, because that's considered, not a good thing, because they lie, cheat, and steal. But the thing of it is, they exaggerate to one side, they ignore the other, and then they try to turn it into saying, well, if you don't do whatever the government tells us to do, especially when it's bipartisan, then you must not be a good American. Chris?
Excellent, Dr. Paul. I'll finish up with my closing thoughts. The American people, myself included when I was younger, we've all been conditioned to believe that freedom is democracy, that the two are the same, when they're clearly not. We've lost our freedom.
This is what I was...
people have been voting all this time. That's, my property, my liberty, your property, your liberty should not be up for a vote. That means your liberty is not secure at all, because they'll just vote to take it away from you.
Two wolves and a sheep voting on what to eat for dinner.
And that's exactly what has been done. We've watched our government, which was limited at first, become the biggest in the world, through voting. It's obviously not freedom, but people still, they're like stuck in this rut. They believe that this is it. If you have anything beyond this, you have tyranny, and that's it. Those are the only options. And you mentioned Dr. Paul Elon Musk and X. And Elon Musk, boy, what a service to humanity this guy is providing by providing free speech. But Elon Musk is too stuck in the democracy and freedom thing. He tweets about it all the time.
Screw
freedom and
democracy.
democracy. Freedom and democracy. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris, who was elected vice president, is saying that if she's elected, that democracy, if she's elected again, she's going to go after X and freedom of speech. And Elon Musk is still freedom and democracy. Harris is telling him, I'm going to eat your lunch if I'm elected. You know, and this is the rut people are in. They can't think outside of, you know, maybe this democracy thing is not working to preserve freedom. She's going to take it away. And this guy poured $40 billion heroically into saving Twitter. So what we have today is not what was initially created. This is not what the founders made.
Yeah, they've been using democracy as a psyop for like 100 years to convince people that, oh, Congress can just do whatever they want. Which is why they allowed the drug war without a constitutional amendment like they needed for alcohol in Prohibition, for instance. Why they've allowed so much military interventionism, allowed Congress to just delegate the powers to declare war to the presidency. In a democracy, you can just do whatever you want with a majority vote. It's not a democracy, people. Democracy is dumb. It's stupid. You have to be a mental a moron, basically, to support or think that democracy is a good idea. How about this one? Here's some logic coming from this dude. I can never remember this dude's name, but he's really good at distilling. I think he works with Trump. He's great at distilling complex concepts into like one or two sentences. Look at this. This is genius right here.
When I was younger, my teacher told me that guns kill people. And I told her that my number 2 pencil was the reason for my bad grades.
Guns kill people. Well, pencils fail tests then, lady. Oh, man, that's great. Let's hop over to some disturbing stuff coming out about antidepressants, birth control, and cocaine. Cocaine is a hell of a drug, Rick James. Being found in creeks and stuff now. Uh-oh. Like I've talked about in the cities, everybody getting dosed with hormones, birth control hormones that are urinated out by women, giving massive doses of estrogenic compounds into everybody, causing precocious puberty, causing all kinds of breast cancers and horrible things. The question, this time-delayed Fuse sent me these, and the question was, is this all really from being urinated out and going through the system? Or if we're finding things in like creeks and everything, are these chemicals being dumped into the system intentionally to feminize and weaken the population? I want to know. Wouldn't surprise me in either case.
Speaking of cold fronts, September is here. Pumpkin spice lattes are back, and fall is just a
Hermione Granger over on the left looks like they plucked her right out of Harry Potter.
few weeks away. But these summer-like temperatures, they're here to stay for a while.
You may be still looking for ways to cool off, at least for the next few days, like hitting the waters on Clear Creek. And Colorado School of Mines looked into the impact that people have on the water.
And Denver 7's Maggie Wolanski shares their findings about what's hiding in Clear Creek.
It's tube after tube, floating down Clear Creek in Golden. These two high schoolers enjoying the thrill of floating along a sea of hundreds.
There are a lot of people coming out for a beautiful day in Colorado to enjoy what is a natural environment. And whenever you can have people out enjoying a natural environment, it's a pretty special thing.
All the tube traffic also led nearby researchers to question the impact people are having on the river.
If you put a bunch of people into the water starts to reflect and show a lot of the microbiology of people. What's on their skin, what's in their bodies.
Yeah, exactly. Hound and McGroin as well. Bisphenol A, common ingredient in plastic, leaches into the foods, used as interior lining on children's juice boxes. And then, of course, there's like the atrazine and the glyphosate and all these other things that are like synthetic estrogens, and soy. That's another big one. I was at the grocery store the other day just trying to find some fucking hamburger buns that didn't have soy in them. Impossible. Look at any bread or buns that you can find in the store. Try to find one without soy. Just try. And let me know if you have any luck, because I need some buns without soy.
What's coming out of their bodies is going to impact the water.
This team worked with researchers at Johns Hopkins University taking samples of the water over Labor Day weekend in 2022.
So our paper officially came out last Thursday, just a couple days before Labor Day, interestingly enough, the topic of the study.
The study confirmed what you probably thought already. People are using the river as a bathroom and leaving more than you would think behind.
But the metabolites can reflect things like antidepressants, birth control, cocaine, THC. These are the sort of things that are coming out of people's bodies as they're tubing.
The research also showing compounds linked to flea medication for dogs, plastics, all mixed in with some of the natural makeup of our state.
We also have a long history of mining in Colorado. So some of those metals wash down from the mountains, and so when we stir them up, we see them in the stream water.
That's not to say you shouldn't make the dunk or ride the river.
Is it dangerous to do? I would say no. Should you enjoy it? I would say yes. Make the most out of a good day.
Think twice before opening your mouth.
Yeah, for
sure. Oh, Don't go in.
I won't be gulping it.
I would not drink the water while I'm in it.
But the team hopes their findings will open some eyes and ears to take better care of this natural attraction in our community.
Get out and enjoy Golden, but we have funneled a lot of people into a small area. And so we just need to see how we responsibly promote these activities.
Reporting in Golden, Maggie Wolanski, Denver 7.
And taking a closer look at why keeping our waterways clean is important, healthy rivers.
We need a control group. Test a river where people are not tubing. Tubing. I don't know. Tom Green just popped into my head. I remember that when he was having his testicle removed for testicular cancer, they videotaped it and he just kept saying tubing all over and over. I don't know why that just popped into my head.
And
test another river to see if this is happening where people aren't tubing, to see if it's being introduced by other means. We're drinking dinosaur pee, and it's delicious. Tulip, savor that dinosaur pee. Go upstream a little bit. Test the same river to see if it's happening upstream from where the people are entering. I want to know.
Lakes means a healthy economy. According to a 2020 report from the Business for Water Stewardship, water sports bring in $2.7 billion in tax revenue.
Speaking of dinosaur pee, water sports
annually. It also gives jobs to more than 131,000 Coloradans.
We got another similar story as well over here. Pharmaceuticals in the water, how antidepressants are ruining ecosystems. Thanks, Time Delayed Fuse, for sending this over.
In the peaceful waters of nature, a hidden
The peaceful waters of nature.
danger is lurking. What if I told you that a common medicine for depression is quietly harming our fish and other water animals? Meet the guppy, a colourful little fish that lives in freshwater streams. Recent research has shown that fluoxetine, also known as Prozac, is effective.
Fluoxetine. All right, astute chat members. What do you think fluoxetine is made out of? Prozac. Fluoxetine. I'll give you the answer because we don't have time to wait for everybody to guess in the chat. Fluoride! It's fluoride. Fluoxetine. And for instance, I guess we'll find out what happens with the guppies. But when shrimp are exposed to fluoxetine and fluoride, they just start not caring, and they swim up towards the light, and the big fish come in and eat them up. Makes you complacent, lowers your IQ, makes you not care. And they apparently did the same thing, added fluoride to the Jewish ghettos in Nazi Germany to make them more complacent down there, allegedly.
Affecting these fish in surprising ways. Scientists from Monash University and the University of Tuscia studied guppies for 5 years and found some shocking results. Imagine a brave guppy that now hides all the time, avoids risks, and becomes less active. These changes make it harder for them to reproduce and thrive.
So the exact
This
opposite
problem
of
doesn't
shrimp?
just affect
Weird.
guppies. Antidepressants can harm other water creatures like insects and frogs. This could upset the balance of life in our waters. Researchers are also looking at mollusks like clams and snails, which might be even more affected by these drugs. Their survival could be in danger. Antidepressants are showing up in our soil, groundwater, and even wildlife. While the amounts might seem small, these drugs are powerful enough to cause harm at very low levels. So, what can we do about it? It's time to take action. We need to protect our waters and the amazing creatures that live there. Awareness is the first step. Next time you visit a river or lake, remember the hidden challenges faced by the life below the surface. Together, we can work towards cleaner, healthier waters for everyone. Join us in learning more about our environment, and let's protect nature. According to a study published in the journal Environmental Science and Technology, traces of antidepressants have been found in 80% of water samples from rivers and lakes. Dr. Jane Smith, an environmental scientist, states, even at low concentrations, these drugs can disrupt the natural behaviour and physiology of aquatic life. Fish exposed to antidepressants exhibit abnormal behaviours, such as increased aggression and reduced feeding. There are also potential risks to human health. While water treatment plants remove many contaminants, some pharmaceuticals can still make their way into our drinking water. Experts warn that long-term exposure to low levels of these drugs could have unknown health effects on humans. Policymakers are now considering stricter regulations to limit pharmaceutical contamination in water sources. Community action and advocacy are crucial in pushing for these changes. By supporting clean water initiatives and being mindful of how we dispose of medications, we can all contribute to a healthier environment. Let's work together to ensure our waters remain vibrant and full of life for generations to come. If you found this video informative,
let's make sure to get RFK Jr. in there with Donald Trump, make the food safe again, make, just everything more chemical free, generally speaking. JJR posted this since we're talking about the Galactic Federation in the chat from this Rush 2112 song where they address planets of the Galactic Federation at about 1:45. Let's check it out. See what's going on over now. Solar Federation. Nice. Good stuff. Rush, great band, man. Neil Peart, incredible drummer. Alex Lifeson. They captured Alex Lifeson on Trailer Park Boys. I don't know if you guys know that show. Really good show. Let's move over to this next story with Chase Bank issuing a fraud warning after ATM glitch videos begin spreading online. This was by Jack Phillips at Epic Times. Chase Bank responded to viral social media videos depicting people exploiting an apparent flaw in the bank's system, saying that those customers were likely committing fraud. Likely? Give me a break, man. Over Labor Day weekend, videos appeared on TikTok and other social media platforms allegedly showing people depositing fraudulent checks written for large sums of money at Chase Bank ATMs. They would then make a withdrawal for a significant amount, believing they discovered a glitch that allowed to get them free money. These people are morons. Morons. You think that they don't figure out that it's a fake check and then saddle you with all that debt? Idiots. Like, how stupid can you possibly be? However, a spokesperson for Chase Bank said those people were likely committing fraud and that the issue was resolved. The bank also warned customers not to mimic what they've seen on the internet. Do not monkey see, monkey do. Let's check out this other video with Salty covering it. This is hilarious, man. How stupid can you possibly be?
A few moments later.
Minus $31,000. Real quick, let's come back over here to Zero Hedge. Take a look at this. Yeah, the Chase glitch was a viral TikTok trend exploiting a bug. They fixed the issue, allegedly, and those who have committed the check fraud have negative balances, as you can see over here with this dumbass, minus 31,000. Hilarious. These people are freaking morons. I've never seen anything this stupid.
Nah, I said it's heavy. Niggas is lined up. No, this shit is elephant. No.
How stupid can you possibly be?
Like niggas in 1x1.
You think they're not going to figure this out, bro? You think they're not going to figure out that you're just cashing fake checks and withdrawing all the amounts before they can figure out that it was fake? Oh my God. Absolutely mind-blowing to me that people can't realize this type of stuff.
Ruh-roh.
Ruh-roh.
Black Twitter is wild, boys. You might not know this, but there is a BET section of social media, and they were sharing how you could scam Chase Bank. Now, there's something about impulse control over here. You're not going to scam a bank. It's a bank. You could scam a lot of places.
Yeah, for sure, Lady Hamilton. They need not only negative balances, but to be imprisoned as well. Hell yeah. A little bit of both. How about that? Totally. I agree, Lady H.
There's a lot of places out there that are like, oh, you got me. The bank is not one of them. And I don't care that Chase Bank flies a BLM flag
Literally
during BLM month, or mostly peaceful summers where people in BLM shirts kill black people. That's a weird thing. Yeah, despite all of the platitudes and all of the flowery language that they post on social media, Chase Bank will come get you. And these guys are figuring that out today. So over on, it's a little bit of both.
How stupid can you possibly be? You deposit a fake check into your own account. The bank is programmed to automatically believe it's legit because it would take time to verify and everything. So that you get an automatic deposit based on good faith. They withdraw it. You don't think the bank is going to figure out that check is fake and then and then saddle you with the debt? How can you not see this coming? We're talking about like 40 IQ morons here.
It's X and TikTok. You had a bunch of
later hounding
future engineers.
Hope you have a great evening. We'll catch you on the flip side for more Common Censored on Friday. Thanks for being here.
Here's the scientists telling everybody, do you know you could get free money on an ATM? How? Here's the scientists. So over on, it's a little bit of both. It's X and TikTok. You had a bunch of future engineers and scientists telling everybody, do you know you could get free money on an ATM? How? Well, what you do is you write a fake check,
Jargon.
You deposit it into the ATM, and it will give you that money. And don't worry about it because of reparations. We'll be fine. No. That's not at all how any of this works. And so here you've got these idiots. You're robbing a bank, and you're making social media about it. This is how you know that a certain segment of our population, despite
completely
screaming
brain dead.
how racist everything is. Oh my God, it's worse than Jim Crow up in here, Abe. Can you believe this? Look at these white supremacists and Asians. You just robbed a bank and you filmed it. Like you made a bunch of TikToks and you made a bunch of posts on social media with your name. This is ridiculous. No. They'll never figure this out. Right? Those idiots in the bank, they didn't actually create the bank. They stole banking from Wakanda.
And there's no digital trails or anything that make it completely obvious. It's like, oh my God, you have to be so stupid to think this was going to work. I can't even process it. It's beyond me.
Guys, you guys got me over here on the bank side. I don't want to be on the bank side. The banks are scumbags, but I mean, this is wild. They'll never figure it out. You deposited a fake check into your account, and you withdrew a bunch of money that you don't have. I think they'll figure. No. Those crackers are stupid. They'll never figure this out. So here, look at this. Yeah, boy. Yeah. Look at this. Finna to get rich up in this bad boy. They'll never crack this code over here.
The fuck was that?
Look at it. Yeah. Oh yeah, boy. Free money. Okay. All right. The next morning. Whoops. Oh my God. I can't believe that bank that I just robbed
Adulting 101.
froze
Nice,
my account
Lady H.
and then told me I owed them 38 grand. I owe this. Okay, no problem. No problem. You did this less than 12 hours ago. Take the 38 grand that you pulled out of that ATM, walk it back to the bank and say, you got me. Here you go. Here's your money back. Oh, wait, you can't.
Right,
Why not?
You couldn't wait to spend it 24 hours, 36 hours to see if you get away with it first? Moron! How stupid. Like, these people are brain dead.
Because I got gold tooth now. I got gold tooth. Got gold tooth. I went and I immediately bought $1,000 shoes. I went and got a watch. I got a diamond encrusted watch for 30 grand. Well, that was dumb. That was dumb. You know, it's fascinating to see these guys who didn't think that they would get.
Oh, no, Mama Mac. The feds are definitely informed about those debts. Those debts are not they may try to abandon those bank accounts, but their social security numbers and everything are all connected to those bank accounts. They're not getting away from that debt. Nope, nope, nope. Bring back debtor's prison. How about that?
Caught. Despite the fact that it's their account. It's like, they'll never go here. And then immediately torched 40 grand. Like that. Like that. If you're an individual, the title's going to be something like black people try to scam a bank, and people go, wait, only black people. No, I'm sure there's white people doing it, but I don't have any pictures or videos of white people doing it. It's all black people doing it. And I have to notice skin color because you lefties told me. I don't want to notice skin color. But you guys changed the rules over here. Sitting there with a clipboard. A non-binary, gender fluid clipboard. Oh my God, look at this movie over here. It took 13 minutes and 36 seconds before a black person's on screen. That's racist. We're going to tell you, man, that's racist. So, you guys told me I have to notice skin color. And in all of these videos, it's just black people. It's just black people. And odds are there's some dumb white people doing this too, but at least the dumb white people, they didn't record themselves doing it. But these idiots over here did. And then, oh my God, there's ramifications to this? Oh my God, bro. Oh my God, they caught me.
Yep. Somebody else who's been caught, Judge Juan Merchan. Breaking! America First Legal is sued Judge Merchan and the Ethics Commission for illegally concealing Judge Merchan's financial disclosures from 2018 to 2024. What? Sassafras 84 posting, I sure hope something comes of this. Let's check in with Stephen Miller himself. Stephen Miller at Stephen M, STEPHENM. Breaking! America First Legal is suing Judge Merchan for illegally refusing to turn over his financial disclosures, retweeting himself, America First Legal at America First Legal 1 ST. 1. We just sued Judge Merchan and the Ethics Commission for the New York Unified Court System for illegally concealing Judge Merchan's financial disclosures from 2018 to 2024. We requested these records in June under New York state law have been unlawfully stonewalled. Imagine my shock. 2. Under New York law, judges are required to file annual financial disclosures, which are required to be made available for inspection upon request. We previously requested these disclosures on June 6, 2024, and have yet to hear back. Here's the June 6 post. We just filed a request with the State of New York Ethics Commission for the Unified Court System to immediately release Judge Merchan's financial disclosures, but nope, no response. 3. On August 30th, 2024, we sent a demand letter to the Ethics Commission for the New York State Unified Court System threatening legal action should they fail to hand over Judge Merchan's financial disclosures. 4. Today, we're fulfilling our legal promise and suing to obtain these records. The public policy behind these rules is plain. to allow parties and members of the public to access conflicts, bias, or prejudice. We are proud to fight to obtain these critical records. Yeah, and Judge Merchan's over there refusing to recuse himself as his daughter rakes in millions and millions of dollars from the Democrats, as he just so happens to be persecuting Donald J. Trump. B. Dolan, 45, thanks for joining us. I wasn't talking to a robot, but making a suggestion to the young public. Your computer is always wrong. Yep, and that's why I say, assume everything we say is false and research for yourself. B. Dolan, 45, thanks for being here. Hope you're having a good week. Number 5, read more here. The article, America First Legal sues New York State Ethics Commission and Judge Merchan for illegally concealing Judge Merchan's financial disclosures. So he's refusing to recuse himself, they're refusing to reveal the details about what the hell money he's been making and from whom. It's all a big club, and you ain't in it, guys. Neither am I, even if the chat does like to call me a Fed sometimes. Not a Fed, just for the record. How about this? Let's jump over to our next topic. As the left eats their own, leftists eating their own. CNN calls out Kamala heels up Kamala Harris for hypocrisy for using Trump's border wall in new campaign ad despite past criticisms. That's right. She's just doing and saying. She's just anything will blow out of her mouth that she could possibly say to just get more voters. And then she'll just go back to her regular beliefs and policies as soon as she would be elected. She's just saying whatever she's got to say, sucking whatever she's got to suck to continue to advance her political career. Jim Hoft wrote this one. You can't make this up. Kamala Harris, who once called Trump's border wall racist and useless, is now using it as a campaign centerpiece. The same wall she fought to dismantle is now being featured in her latest ad campaign. And CNN, yes, far-left CNN, is calling her out for her blatant hypocrisy. In a new report from CNN's K-File, investigative reporters uncovered over 50 instances where Harris publicly slammed Trump's border wall, calling it everything from, quote, a waste of taxpayer money, unquote, to, quote, a medieval vanity project. But now, in a shocking flip-flop, Harris is touting that very wall as one of her accomplishments. Aaron Burnett dove deep into the controversy, airing segments from Harris's new ad where the border wall is prominently featured. In the ad, Harris is seen touting her record as a tough-on-crime prosecutor, focusing on border security and taking down drug cartels. The kicker? The wall she's standing in front of was built by none other than Donald J. Trump. And it's a tremendous wall, tremendous, big, beautiful wall. Last month, California Sheriff Mike Boudreaux lashed out at Kamala for including him in her campaign without his permission, her campaign ad. Quote, in light of a recent political ad put out by Kamala Harris featuring Sheriff Boudreaux, as well as other local law enforcement, the sheriff wants to make it abundantly clear that his image is being used without his permission, and he does not endorse Kamala for president or any other political office. Hilarious. So let's skip ahead to this CNN segment and see what's going on. Meow.
Tonight, K-File investigates. In a new report, you'll see first out front. The K-File team scoured Kamala Harris's tweets and statements going all the way back to 2017. And what they found was more than 50 instances of Harris slamming Trump's border wall. But now, new Harris campaign ads actually showcase that very wall.
If you can act hysterical, I'm going to slap you like I'm Connery.
As a border state prosecutor, she took on drug cartels and jailed gang members for smuggling weapons and drugs across the border.
And on top of critical tweets, Harris also wrote in her 2019 book, quote, there was a bigger reason to oppose the border wall. A useless wall on the southern border would be nothing more than a symbol, a monument standing in opposition to not just everything I value, but to the fundamental values upon which this country was built. How could I vote to build what would be little more than a monument designed to send the cold, hard message, keep out? Well, K-File's Andrew Kaczynski joins me now. So, Andrew, I mean, you all have gone through, scoured an incredible amount of material. Tell me more about what you found.
Yeah, that's right. We found more than 50 of those tweets criticizing the border wall before she used that in her ad. And I want people to take a look at just a few of what she said here. She called it wasteful, useless, a waste of taxpayer money, a vanity wall project, a wasteful border wall, a stupid wall, a medieval vanity project, and an unnecessary wall. And those are really just, there were more of this, just like 10 or like 50. But there was really a lot of this was the common refrain during the campaign. You read that quote where she said it was against everything that not only she stood for, everything America stood for, and she brought this up a lot. Take a listen to just one instance of that in 2019.
It's the president's vanity project.
His multi-billion-dollar vanity project called a wall is nothing more
like
than a
button, guys.
distraction from the fact that he actually hasn't focused on working people in America. He contrived a national crisis around his big distraction.
All right, so you go through all of that, you've got all the tweets, and yet all of a sudden in the ads, there's pictures of the wall, and then you went through to look at that wall. Yeah. Like, what is that specific wall that's in her campaign ads now? And you found something very interesting about this specific portion of the wall.
And I think what's also really remarkable about this is, you heard her talking about it there, Trump's wall in his campaign during his presidency. There was really no greater symbol of Trump's presidency than the wall, in the way that Democrats were attacking him over the wall and his restrictive immigration policies. So we looked in that ad, and if you look at it, that exact area of wall is in Sasabe, Arizona, and that is a portion of wall that was actually built by Donald Trump. It was built in an area where there was not previous wall. It was actually pretty controversial when they were building it at the time. So just to see that, and then there are other.
She's using his wall that he built to say, "Look at what I did." Basically,
and the other images of the wall, we weren't able to pinpoint, but there's telltale signs that was a Trump wall, because there's an anti-climbing plate on top that became popularized during the Trump years.
It's really incredible reporting and important. All right, Andrew Kaczynski and K-File, thank you very much.
Hilarious. Fedora the Explorer. Good to see you, Fedora the Explorer. Thanks for being here. I hope you're having a kick-ass week. Let's see what we got next on the list. Let's hop over to DC Drano, DC_Drano on X. Biden and Kamala confirm they want to ban AR-15s and institute red flag laws that would be weaponized to seize guns from conservatives. Kamala isn't messing around. She's going to seize our guns. Let's check out Cringe, John Pierre.
We continue to call on Congress to do something. We need universal background checks. We need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Require safe storage of firearms. Invest in violence prevention.
Require safe storage of firearms? Not like it's your private property and you can do whatever you want on your private property and store things however you want. No, the feds need to get their grubby little disgusting fingers inside of your premises and control how you store your guns. How about no? How about hell no? These people, man, they drive me frickin' crazy. How about hell no?
How about hell no? How about fuck no? And fuck you, New World Order.
Yeah, fuck you, New World Order. Keep your fucking hands out of my property. You can't tell me how to store my guns. Anything like that. Fuck you.
Prevention programs and pass a national red flag law.
No.
Enough is enough. And I cannot say this enough, which is enough is enough.
Oh my God.
We cannot allow this to happen in our communities.
You have officially died of cringe. Enough is enough, and I can't say this enough, which is enough. Is enough enough? Oh, that enough is more than enough. It's too much. Fuck these people. Fuck these people. You are now officially dead of cringe. Cringe, John Pierre. Oh my God, she makes me want to vomit. And you know what? I should have had the hurl cam ready, but if you did vomit, sorry, it's too late. But you know.
If you're gonna spew,
Spew into this.
Thank you, Garth. Let's check in with Laura Loomer. Told ya, she says, they are staging the National Guard because they are experiencing so many cops to call out sick on September 18th so they don't have to participate in the sentencing of Donald Trump by Judge Merchan. I'm sketched out about this, guys. I don't like this date. The choice of date, September 18th. It's the anniversary of the death of Jimi Hendrix. The elimination of a legend. Seems like they could be trying to do the same thing to Donald Trump, taking him out politically, like the death of Jimi Hendrix, the death of Trump's political career. This could be some sort of like occult date significance ritual that they've picked this specific date. I don't like it. I like Jimi Hendrix. He's everywhere in this room. If you guys had a view around, you could see him over there, up there, over there, over there. Jimi Hendrix all over the place. Used to be my top favorite guitarist. Subsequently replaced by Michael Romeo, but still legendary guitarist nonetheless. Mostly for the way that he changed the way people play guitar forever after that. Let's continue. Laura Loomer reported this on Friday that they're, bringing in the National Guard because all the cops are going to be calling out sick. National Guard is being stationed near the courthouse in case police refuse to transport Donald J. Trump to Rikers Island. Also could be in case they have to deal with some kind of mass rebellion if this bullshit court case goes through and they try to jail him. It could be a big problem. MAGA could come out bigly. But that's exactly what they want. They want something to happen so that they can frame us for a civil war. New York residents reporting National Guards all over New York City. Look, guys, the National Guard is all over Brooklyn, man. There ain't no cops anywhere. It's only National Guard now everywhere. Look at that shit. Let's take a look for ourselves.
Look, guys, the National Guard. National Guard is now all over Brooklyn, man. There ain't no cops anywhere. It's only National Guard now, everywhere. Look at that shit.
Oh, fuck.
Martial law coming, man.
Fedora! Catch you later, Fedora. Hope you have a brilliant, excellent, amazing, beautiful, majestic night. And thanks for being here. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Look, guys, the National Guard.
So, National Guards all over the place. What the hell is going on in New York? How about this one? Mama Mac is right. She sent this to me. Let's charge them both. Yes. Retweeting Illuminati bot Netanyahu saying, charging me with war crimes in Gaza is like charging George Bush for 9/11. Yeah, he needs to be charged. Completely, 100%. Marvin P. Bush in charge of Securicom, the security company on 9/11, who, for the trade centers, who arguably installed all kinds of horrifying explosives and shit allegedly throughout the buildings. And, the NORAD stand down where the jets could have been scrambled to intervene, but nope. Yeah, charge George Bush for war crimes for invading Iraq, who had nothing to do with 9/11. George Bush should be underneath the prison. Volcano style. Allegedly. After due process. Kenton McGroin, Billdozer has been abducted by aliens. Oh no, not Billdozer. Billdozer! He's going to be broadcasting 9:30 Central Time in an hour. We'll launch a raid at the end of the broadcast, Bill. Try to bring people over to your show, although we'll be stopping like a half hour before you begin. But we'll try to, again, Trop says, Billdozer abducted again. Get his brain scrambled by the Goa'uld. Let's check out this clip of Bibi Netanyahu basically admitting it.
He's creating a false symmetry between the democratically elected leaders of Israel and the terrorist chieftains. That's like saying after 9/11, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for George Bush, but also for bin Laden. Or after in World War II, well, I'm issuing arrest warrants for FDR, but also for Hitler.
Oh, you mean FDR, who, gave bazillions of dollars to communist Russia? Yeah. FDR, who committed crimes against the U.S. by enacting socialist policies and completely bypassing the Constitution on numerous occasions. Yeah, fuck FDR. He should have been arrested and buried under the jail too. Just like you, BB. Just like Bush. Yeah, totally, Lady Hamilton. The video of Bush being told about 9/11 with the kids. He clearly knew what was going on. Dick Cheney commanding NORAD to stand down, just like BB Bitch Boy over here commanded the Iron Dome to stand down for like 7.5 hours, allowing the attack that then justified his incursion, which is exactly what George Bush did. Project for the New American Century, calling for a new Pearl Harbor type event so they could launch a series of staged wars in the Middle East for strategic global dominance. Yeah, they should be arrested. FDR, scumbag. Bush, scumbag. You, scumbag, BB. Fuck you.
It's a hit job. It's not serious. He's out to defame Israel, and he's also pouring gasoline on the fires of anti-Semitism that are spreading around the world.
No, you're pouring gasoline on the fires of anti-Semitism by committing war crimes. You think people are just going to sit back and, you're not inflaming tensions by doing your dumbass shit? This is your fault, BB. You think that there would have been a massive rise in anti-Semitism if you hadn't stood down on 10/7 and then, murdered tens of thousands of innocent people in Gaza?
Because he is attacking the one and only Jewish state and trying to handcuff us, preventing us from exercising responsibly through the laws of war as we obey them and we are subordinate to them.
Bullshit. You're running around with patches on your military uniforms of Greater Israel, telegraphing your clear desire to commandeer sections of Egypt, Syria, Lebanon in part of your new Greater Israel state that you're working on. You think we're stupid, BB? It's your fault. If people are experiencing anti-Semitism, it's your fault. It's blowback from your actions, scumbag.
He's saying we're not. He's creating false symmetry, false facts, and he's doing a grave injustice to the international court. He's creating a false...
Yeah, that's right, Lady H. FDR behind the New Deal, which arguably extended the Great Depression for over a decade. 1921, there was a similar style market crash, and who was the president at that time? Harding, possibly, who basically did nothing, and the market corrected itself in a year. Whereas you launch all these market interventions with FDR, even though they did nothing in just a decade earlier, and it went perfectly fine, and the market corrected itself immediately by letting all the businesses and individuals with the money make the most strategic, best decisions for their funds. You get FDR coming in with the New Deal, with all this these market interventions, and the Depression continued for over a decade. So listen to Tom Woods talking about that. Let's jump over to YouTube real quick and see if I can find something about Thomas E. Woods. Tom Woods, FDR, New Deal, Depression. Oh, Tom Woods, FDR, New Deal, Depression. The disastrous New Deal.
All right, so today we're going to talk about the Great Depression and the New Deal. Now, the Great Depression, of course, was a period that began, we usually date it with the stock market crash at the end of 1929, and then persisting.
Which was triggered intentionally when all the banks put out these marginal loans, and then they called them all in at once, knowing that people didn't have the capital to pay it, and triggering intentionally the Great Depression. These people are pure evil. They knew exactly what they're doing.
For years afterward. The Great Depression, when did it really end? That's a dispute. I would say that it didn't really end until after World War II. It didn't really end until 1946 because the so-called prosperity of World War II was fake prosperity. So the Depression really lingered and lingered. Now, we're not going to talk here about what the causes of the Great Depression were. You can read about that in Murray Rothbard's book, America's Great Depression. I have a chapter on it in my book, 33 Questions About American History You're Not Supposed to Ask. But having watched the lesson in this course on business cycles, you know about why it is that the economy goes up and down, and you've got interference with
the boom and the bust cycle caused from Keynesian deficit financing. I just posted the link to this presentation down into the chat and added it to the show notes too, so it'll be in the description of the video beneath the Rumble video window as soon as the broadcast is over. But this is key, critical stuff to understand. Yeah, just like 2008, just like all of them, Trop.
Interest rates, etc. Well, that was all going on during the 1920s, and finally the thing came crashing down. So really what we've already talked about in what I think it might have been lesson 36 was on display here and was responsible for the Great Depression. That's talked about, as I say, in that Rothbard book. And then from the European side, you could read Lionel Robbins's book, The Great Depression. These are not easy reads, I warn you. You can, as I say, my chapter in 33 questions is probably a little bit easier to follow. But the point is that once the Depression set in, things were pretty bad in the United States. In 1932, they were especially bad. 1931-32 were the really bad years, where unemployment was hitting 25%. In some parts of the country, it was 50% or more. In some areas, it was devastating in terms of production and growth and employment. Horrible. So what we're going to look at is what the government's response was. And it turns out that before the Great Depression, all other depressions saw the government intervening basically not at all. Not at all.
And they went away.
The first time the government says we're going to roll up our sleeves and try and fix this thing, we wind up with the longest depression in American history.
What a coincidence. Imagine my shock, guys. Market interventions by the government result in negative externalities that screw everything up. That's what I always say, right?
Well, imagine my shock.
Thanks, Paul.
All right, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about Herbert Hoover. So let me...
For some reason, I always screw that name up and say Hubert Hoover when I try to say it. I don't know why. Hubert, that's not a real name.
Define some terms here and set the stage for you. First of all, the term the New Deal refers to a series of government programs that were implemented under the president who came after Herbert Hoover, Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
That's right, Trop.
And the New Deal got started in 1933 and then just persisted throughout the tenure of Roosevelt. The New Deal is sometimes credited with lifting the economy out of the Depression. This is certainly untrue. And in fact, a number of historians now no longer try to claim that the New Deal lifted the country out of the Depression. What they
You have to have zero concept of how economics works at the most basic levels to think that the New Deal helped with the Great Depression. You have to be economically illiterate or a Keynesian.
Say is that, well, the New Deal and the fireside chats that Roosevelt would give over the radio to the public increased the confidence of the American people. They comforted the American people. They didn't in and of themselves solve the problem, but they showed that the government was actively engaged in trying to solve the problem. Well, okay, but we'll be talking about Franklin Roosevelt, though, in the next lesson. In this lesson, we're going to talk about Hoover and the conventional wisdom, just so, again, I can set the stage for you. The conventional wisdom, the standard view that you will see to this day, repeated in newspapers and elsewhere in the media, etc., is that Herbert Hoover was a stupid stick in the mud who believed deeply in the free market economy. And because of that, he didn't lift a finger to try to turn things around when the Depression hit. Instead, he stuck to his guns and refused to help, and so naturally the economy got worse and worse. And then Franklin Roosevelt took over, and things got better and better and better, and that was because he got the government involved. Well, things didn't get that much better. They got somewhat better under Franklin Roosevelt. And in fact, the economic recovery, had already begun under Hoover and was simply maturing under FDR anyway.
Haven't had
but
that
from
in forever,
1933 to 1940, that period of Roosevelt's term, the average unemployment rate was still 18%, so still not particularly great. Well, it turns out that now most historians recognize that this silly rendition of the facts that you'll read in the New York Times and other unreliable outlets is completely at odds with reality. That in fact, Herbert Hoover had long since abandoned his confidence in the absolute free market economy. I have many quotations about this in my 33 questions about American history you're not supposed to ask. I have many quotations from Hoover in which he says that, of course, we don't believe in the laissez-faire free market economy anymore. Of course, we know that government needs to have a guiding hand on things. Like, who believes in the free market anymore? I mean, he was quite open about this. And as we'll see at the end of this lesson, his political opponents recognize this too.
I got a question. Is that a goddamn... I remember that Wiley from Beavis and Butthead to America. Classic.
Political opponents said, oh my gosh, I can't believe Herbert Hoover is intervening so much in the economy. And he's expanding government power so much, he thinks, to fight the Depression. And he's actually making things worse. Franklin Roosevelt himself, when he ran against Herbert Hoover, said, my gosh, Herbert Hoover is spending too much money. We need to get in and balance the budget.
Wow.
So I'm not making this up. His own opponents saw this at the time.
It's like Kamala Harris just straight up lying to get in office and then doing the exact opposite.
All right, so let's go through some of the specific examples of things that Hoover did. Now, I'm not going to go through absolutely everything that he did. There's the most readable, easy part of Rothbard's book, America's Great Depression, which you can get online for free, are the sections going through Hoover's policies, not going through the issues of the money supply growth in the 20s and business cycle theory, but the chapters on what Hoover did are just fantastic. So I'm just picking out a few, but they'll be enough to serve the purpose. The first one is his high wages policy. We begin to see already in 1930, from 1929 through 1930, Franklin Roosevelt convening meetings at the White House in which he would call major representatives of big business in and say to them, don't cut wages during this depression. Don't cut back on wages. Now, this was a time when prices were falling 10%, 15% a year, but keep wages stable. Now, this is in effect basically giving people a raise, in effect, right? If wages are falling, I beg your pardon, if prices are falling and wages stay the same, you're giving everybody a raise during a depression. Well, what this is going to do is make it harder to employ them. So business firms, by and large, the big businesses, kept their word. They pledged to the president they would not lower wage rates. Now, this sounds great, right? Everybody think, oh, good, right? People will have high wages. The problem is not a lot of people had wages. Now, the problem was that a lot of people had no wage at all because in the depressed conditions of the Depression, it was hard for business firms to afford to pay people what they used to pay them. And so a lot of people simply had no job at all. Now, the smaller businesses where there wasn't as much government scrutiny were probably getting away with modest decreases in wage rates. But by and large, economic commentators at the time noted that business firms were indeed keeping wage rates high. Something called the Alexander Hamilton Institute actually said that wage rates being kept at their previous high levels were a major ingredient in the continuing business recession. Other economists like Jacob Viner said, well, look, if we could create prosperity by keeping wages high, why don't we create more prosperity by doubling or tripling wages? Right? Why be stingy? Why not double or triple wages if that's the key to prosperity? And because that's what Hoover said. If you keep wages high, then people will have more money to spend on goods, and that'll be great. Well, why don't we give them even more money to spend on goods? Double their wages, triple their wages, then think of how much money they'll have in their pockets. Well, of course, the problem will be hardly anybody will be employed, so it'll defeat the whole purpose of the program. Now,
yep. Market interventions causing negative externalities. Classic example right there.
UCLA recently, in the past 20 years or so, economists Leo Hanian and Harold Cole have written articles on this general subject, and they say that behind the scenes what was going on was that, in effect, the Hoover administration was pledging to give some of these business firms help against unionization of their firms in exchange for keeping wages high. And so there was a coercive element in the background to the high wage policy. So we got the high wage policy. Franklin Roosevelt will take the high wage policy and make it actual government policy through his National Industrial Recovery Act, and the various industries of the American economy will see that there will be minimum wages established by law, not by the president trying to persuade you to do it, as Hoover did, but actually forcing you to do it. We'll see that in the next lesson. Then in 1930, we get the Smoot-Hawley tariff, which raises tariffs, which are taxes on goods that are imported from other countries, on 25,000 products. It raises them an average of 59%. And when that happens, Americans buy fewer goods from foreign countries. So foreign countries tend to respond to that and say, well, if Americans now don't want to buy our goods because there are big taxes on them, then we're going to put taxes on American goods and make sure that our people don't buy American goods. So American cars, their sales in foreign countries fell sharply. A lot of goods Americans sold overseas fell sharply in sales in retaliation for the Smoot-Hawley tariff. So, as I say, since American consumers decided with an average 59% tax on imports not to buy imports, well, then other countries are going to say, well, then we're not going to buy your exports. So there. Then we got the Reconstruction Finance Corporation. The purpose of this thing was to supply failing businesses, mainly railroads and banks, with emergency low-interest loans. It later was involved in lending to the states for unemployment relief and for public works projects. So this is another example of government intervention. Rothbard shows that some of these emergency low-interest loans went to institutions that just happened to be in good favor with the White House and with the party in power. So not too surprising, I suppose. Historian Paul Johnson says the businesses Hoover hoped to save either went bankrupt in the end anyway after fearful agonies, or were burdened throughout the 1930s with a crushing load of debt. So it may have been better, in other words, to let these businesses go bankrupt so that other firms could get control of their assets cheaply and without being burdened by debt.
Ooh, look at this. We can nominate Lady H for Teacher of the Year, guys. Check it out. Check out the link she just posted in the chat. Do your part and nominate Lady H. Thanks, Lady H. Let's do it.
Then taxes were raised. You got modest income tax reductions in 1929, but major increases in 1932, in the Revenue Act of 1932. Top marginal income tax rate increased from 25% to 63%. You got new or higher taxes in the cases of corporate taxes, estate taxes, gift taxes, taxes on cars, tires, gasoline, toiletries, electric energy, luxury items, bank checks, and telephone and telegraph messages. So obviously this is not a good thing for the economy. Public works programs. There were more funds expended in 4 years, the 4 years of Herbert Hoover's administration, than there had been in the previous 20 on public works projects. So again, the idea that the government was doing nothing is provably false. Moreover, the federal government subsidized, that is, actively supported with money, shipbuilding at a time when shipping was suffering a decline thanks to a shrinking of international trade caused by the Smoot-Hawley tariff. So there's much less international trade going on, much less need for shipping, and that's the moment the government's going to subsidize shipping. Now, Hoover, in his own memoir, recalled as follows: "We might have done nothing," which is what most people think he did, because that's what we hear over and over and over again. Hoover did nothing. He was a stupid head. He believed in capitalism and so on. Now, I haven't even talked about his agriculture policy, all kinds of other areas too. His involvement in whether it was anything from immigration to bans on short selling of stock, etc. He says, "We might have done nothing. That would have been utter ruin. Instead, we met the situation with proposals to private business and to Congress of the most gigantic program of economic defense and counterattack ever evolved in the history of the Republic." John Nance Garner, the vice presidential nominee under Hoover's opponent in 1932, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, said, "Hoover is leading the country down the road to socialism." So at the time, nobody was foolish enough to say, well, Hoover believes in the free market and that's his problem. No, his critics were saying he's leading the country down the road to socialism. His problem is not that he's doing too little. His problem is doing way too much and interfering with the adjustment of the economy. Yep. Rexford Tugwell, who was an important advisor to Franklin Roosevelt, later recalled, "We didn't admit it at the time, but practically the whole New Deal was extrapolated from programs that Hoover started." All right, let's now look at the successor of Herbert Hoover, and that is Franklin Roosevelt, elected in 1932.
I hope you guys aren't bored by this, because this is really, really important information. People don't understand how this all happened and how the New Deal destroyed the economy and extended and exacerbated the Great Depression. People are taught he's a hero who fixed everything, and it couldn't be further from the truth. Everything we're taught. It's like opposite world.
So what I want to do is go through a few of the better known aspects of the bundle of programs introduced by Franklin Roosevelt that were known as the New Deal. And the first of these was called the National Industrial Recovery Act. And this act established something called the National Recovery Administration.
And you guys, I'd highly recommend, just in general, subscribing to Tom Woods' channel over here, Tom Woods TV. Subscribe to his podcast. He's one of the 4 people that influenced me and my mentality probably the most during my awakening process in 2008. Ron Paul, Alex Jones, Peter Schiff, Tom Woods. Really, really smart. He is the author of A Politically Incorrect Guide to American History. He has a 20-part online free lecture series on YouTube where he goes through all of these topics of American history throughout our timeline and teaches you what really happened as opposed to the federal propaganda that people are taught. It's really, really important and informative series. I highly recommend it. A Politically Incorrect Guide to American History. Let's see if we hop over here real quick. politically incorrect guide. Here we go. Ooh, look, politically incorrect guide to the Great Depression and New Deal. View playlist here. We got the politically incorrect guide to, to American history. Looks like the same thing. Here, this is the one I'm familiar with, I think. Politically correct guide to American history. Lecture series going through all of these topics. 15 parts. You have to, this is your homework. You have to go watch all these. They're really good. Let's continue with the Great Depression stuff.
And the thinking behind this act was that what business needed right now was not too much competition with each other, was not a race to compete to see who could get the lowest price and so on. What we need is stability. We need to give everybody a share of the market. So we're going to establish minimum prices for products, not maximum prices. Sell as high as you want. We're going to establish minimum prices. You have to sell your goods for at least this much. Now, notice that on the one hand, each industry was allowed to draft a production code for itself. And in each of these production codes, you would have stipulated minimum wages. So everybody's got to be paid at least a certain amount. Minimum prices, you have to charge at least a certain amount for your product. Hours of production that everybody in the industry will abide by. Production methods, etc. If you don't comply with the production code, you could be penalized. And then Roosevelt would pass these codes into law by executive order. Now, you may be wondering, if all the firms in an industry get together and decide together what their minimum prices are going to be and all that, that sounds like collusion. Doesn't that sound like something that the antitrust laws, were created to stop?
Yeah.
And it turns out they had to suspend the antitrust laws to allow business firms to collaborate with each other in this way. Now, notice how contradictory it all is. On the one hand, we're going to try and...
Loki, the chat says hi, Loki. You don't want to say hi? She's camera shy.
Keep people's wages high so that they'll have purchasing power to go out and buy things they need. But on the other hand, we're also trying to keep prices high. We're trying to keep minimum prices. We're trying to prevent people from having sales and cutting prices. No. We're going to keep prices up. So yeah, we're going to keep your wage up, but a lot of good that's going to do you if we're going to also raise prices. And also, these minimum wages, you hear minimum wage, you think McDonald's. But in these days, these minimum wages under the National Industrial Recovery Act were 90% of the average wage around 1928. So this wasn't like the kind of money you'd earn in a fast food restaurant. These were very high minimum wages, and so unemployment continued in the double digits throughout the 1930s. So, as I said before, the claim was that business needs stability, not too much competition. Then they'll be able to hire, earn profits, etc. Well, you can decide for yourself if that is a good idea or not. But here's an interesting example. My friend Bert Folsom, who's a professor of history at Hillsdale College, has a very good book called New Deal or Raw Deal about the domestic policy of Franklin Roosevelt. He's got some very, very good detail, just for instance, about the tire industry.
And that just showed that on screen also. New Deal or Raw Deal? I posted that into the chat. He's probably interviewing the author of that in this podcast episode. Let's continue.
He points out, he's got several industries, but I'm focusing on the tire industry. He points out exactly what the effects of the National Recovery Administration were on this particular industry. In particular, he was interested in the effects it would have on smaller businesses. What were the big businesses in the tire industry at that time? Well, Goodyear, Goodrich, and Firestone. Some of these may be familiar to you even today. Well, the big businesses tended to have the most influence when drawing up the production code for the industry. So the big tire companies had the most influence when drawing up the production code for the tire industry. And so one of the things they did was make sure and establish a fairly high minimum price. No one can sell lower than this number of dollars. No one can sell tires for less than this number of dollars. So tire prices went up. So this is not pro-consumer. And now notice what the effects of this are going to be on smaller businesses. Now, smaller businesses, a smaller tire company or repair company can't compete with Goodyear on the basis of service. Goodyear has service stations all over the country. Joe's Garage has one location. So Joe's Garage can't compete with Goodyear on service, because if I drive 100 miles, there's no Joe's Garage, and now what am I going to do? Whereas I can find a Goodyear every 50 miles, let's say.
Just adding to what Ron Paul said earlier about taking complex economic ideas and trying to make them digestible to the average individual, something that Ron Paul has tried to do daily for his career. Tom Woods is also really good at that, taking complex ideas and making them very understandable. So take this lecture series the one I posted, a politically incorrect guide to American history, and share it with everybody you know because it's invaluable.
So how does Joe's Garage compete with Goodyear? How does Joe's tire company, Joe's car, whatever, how do they compete with Goodyear? And the answer is on the basis of price. Joe's can sell tires for less than Goodyear. That's how Joe carves out a space in the market for himself, is by competing on price. He can't compete on service, but he can compete on price, but not anymore. Under the National Industrial Recovery Act, not anymore. He cannot compete on price because you're not allowed to lower your prices. This is where prices must be at least. This is what the big firms have said they've got to be when establishing the tire code. So you can't sell for down here. You can sell for here or higher. You can't sell for down here. And so this makes it very hard for small businesses to be competitive. In the Folsom book, by the way, he has testimonies from small businessmen saying exactly this. We can't compete on service. We can only compete on price. And now they won't let us compete on price. Clarence Darrow, whom you may know, whose name you may know from the Scopes trial from 1925, led an investigation into the NRA in 1934. And he concluded this. In virtually all the codes we have examined, one condition has been persistent. The code has offered an opportunity for the more powerful interests to seize control of an industry or to augment and extend a control already obtained.
Seems to be a consistent theme for the past 100 years, like locking down entire economies, forcing people into big box retailers.
William Leuchtenberg, who's a historian who favors the New Deal, so I'm not cherry-picking here, he's inclined to favor what Roosevelt did, admitted that the NRA did little to speed recovery and probably actually hindered it by its support of restrictionism and price raising, because it restricted the amount you could produce and sell. It wouldn't allow prices to be lower, so it obviously was interfering with the price system and with the normal adjustment of the market. Harold Cole and Lee Ohanian are a couple of professors I mentioned last time. I think at least Ohanian is not at UCLA anymore, but he was at the time he wrote this article. And he said this, and they wrote a famous article on the New Deal in the Journal of Political Economy, which is one of the most influential academic journals in that field. And they say this, New Deal labor and industrial policies did not lift the economy out of the Depression as President Roosevelt had hoped.
Imagine my shock.
Instead, the joint policies of increasing labor's bargaining power and linking collusion with paying high wages prevented a normal recovery.
Ding, ding,
Not
ding,
only
ding.
did the adoption of these industrial and trade policies coincide with the persistence of depression through the late 1930s, but the subsequent abandonment of these policies coincided with the strong economic recovery of the 1940s.
So abandoning this bullshit helped with the recovery. Mandy J. Lawson, good to see you, Mandy. Thanks so much for dropping the massive bomb on our Cash App last Thursday. I didn't notice it till a couple days ago, so sorry for the late response to thank you. But thank you so much, Mandy. Really appreciate it. And it means a lot that you value the show and believe in us. So thanks again. Hope everything is great down in sunny Florida, Mandy. Always good to see you.
Then in agriculture, we have the Agricultural Adjustment Act. The purpose of this act is to help the farmers. The argument is that the farmers aren't getting high enough prices for their crops. They're not able to make a good living at the prices they're able to get for their crops. So let's do what we need to do to raise the prices of crops. Well, think of, what do you think could be done to raise the prices of crops? Like, for example, when you hear that let's say there was a frost in Florida and a lot of the oranges were ruined, what's the effect on orange juice prices? Well, of course, up. Prices go up because there are fewer oranges. Orange juice, therefore, will be more scarce, and this is going to raise prices to higher than they would have been otherwise. So, in other words, if something happens to the size of the crop, it will raise prices. So that's to say, if the size of the crop shrinks, prices will go up. Roosevelt wants to raise prices for the farmer. So what's he going to do? He wants there to be a smaller crop. He wants there to be less produced. And then prices will go up in the same way as in my orange juice example. The problem he faces in 1933 is that it's too late for a policy like that. Farmers are already sitting on a big glut of agricultural production. Now,
for the record, Mandy is like she's like a 20-star general, something like that in the Info Marines. So thank you again, Mandy. Really appreciate your support. Our highest ranking Marine officer in the Info Marines. Thanks, Mandy.
Now, of course, it could be that maybe the market just had too many farmers in it, that maybe people needed to go do something else for a living, and then you would have had somewhat less production and prices would have gone to wherever they need to go. This would have been handled automatically on the market. Instead of saying, nope, we're going to keep everybody who's in farming. Well, the market sometimes has a way of telling people, you shouldn't be in this field. We have too many people in this field. Go into something else. But the government was going to freeze everybody in farming where they were and just assure them that they would get prices up. Eventually, Roosevelt is going to favor a policy of reducing acreage. You just plant less in the first place, and then less will be produced, but that will raise prices, and that'll be great. But the problem is in 1933, it's too late. It's too late for that policy. Because there's already a glut of production. They've already produced all this cotton. They've already produced all this wheat, all this corn, etc. It's already been produced. It's too late to say we won't produce as much next year. What are we going to do about this year's production? So the answer is we'll just take a lot of this year's production and just destroy it. We'll just burn it. And that's how we'll deal with the overproduction from the alleged overproduction from this year. We'll just burn a good portion of it, and then the remainder will be more expensive, and this will be good.
Dude, reminds me of these videos that we're seeing of them just destroying hundreds of thousands of eggs. You guys see these videos? Let me see if I can find it real quick. I've seen these videos popping up on X of just like stacks of just countless cartons of eggs, and they're just dumping them into pits, just destroying everything. It's unbelievable. So this is what they do, man. They just destroy everything. This isn't even, oh, maybe this is the video. Look at this. Fake bird flu bullshit.
Este es un video que nunca hubiésemos querido.
Shut the fuck up. How about that?
So you have enormous quantities of acres of cotton that are destroyed, and wheat destroyed, and millions of pigs slaughtered to raise the pork price. Now, this is at a time when people are having trouble feeding themselves, and the government's policy is to kill pigs.
So they're trying to instate austerity again, raise the prices, cripple the individual consumers, to weaken us and make us susceptible to takeover. So they're pushing these fake bird flus and stuff as the means to increase prices by destroying the supply. And they're lying to you about the bird flu stuff when the goal is to do exactly what they were doing back in the day and make everything so expensive that the system collapses. That's the goal, is collapsing the system. Don't believe the bullshit justifications for murdering hundreds of thousands of cattle, millions of chickens, destroying all the production of our food supply. This is why they're trying to destroy and collapse the system.
And to destroy cotton for clothing, to destroy other foodstuffs in order to raise prices.
Listen, people.
So on the one hand, they're trying to keep wages up for people, but then on the other hand, then they think only about the farmers for a minute. What would the farmers want? They'd want higher farm prices, so we'll give that to them. Okay, and then the business people want higher prices for their products, so we'll just think about them, and we'll raise prices for them. And so we're going to help each individual group
Wiley.
As if it's a hermetically sealed part of the economy. But when you look at it together, what has all this accomplished? You raise their wages, then you cancel that out by raising the prices of everything they buy. And when you engage in acreage limitation, by the way, what farmers tend to do to get around this is they'll say, well, some of these acres were barely producing for me anyway, so I just won't use those acres. I'll use my best acres, and then I'll cultivate the heck out of them and fertilize and everything. So they'll be
Getting McGroin, another intrepid info marine. Thanks, Getting McGroin. Appreciate you.
able to produce more than the government is expecting them to be able to produce. They have ways of getting around this. Well, what happens when the government suddenly says,
Semper Fi.
Hey, we don't want as much stuff produced. We need you to take all these acres out of production. Well, think about people who work for a living on those acres, producing food or, growing cotton or whatever. What happens to them when all of a sudden 1/3 of the acres aren't being cultivated anymore? Well, a lot of those people are going to have no job. There's nothing for them to do anymore, so they will be artificially unemployed. So as many as 2 million tenant farmers and sharecroppers lost their jobs. The U.S. Department of Agriculture engaged in a study in which they constructed 4 sample diets: liberal, moderate, minimum, and emergency, below subsistence. Subsistence is just enough food to stay alive. That's subsistence. Well, they found that the United States was not producing enough food to sustain its population, even at the minimum, that is subsistence diet. And yet, they're destroying food. Then we have the Works Progress Administration, which is going to engage in public works as Herbert Hoover had. And this is a program where you do have to think in terms of what is seen and what is not seen. We see the people working on building the bridge, but we don't see where the money would have gone otherwise, into some other field, hiring people to do something else. Now, what's particularly noteworthy here, and that a number of scholars have taken particular note of, is that there seems to be a problem. There's an anomaly here in the Works Progress Administration. Why is it that the South, the southern states, where people were the poorest, got the least assistance from the WPA? There were the fewest WPA projects begun there. Why is that? Why were the preponderance of WPA projects in the western states?
Preponderance, great word. Just so you guys know, we're going to finish off this video. I don't think Tom Woods minds that we're sharing an entire video from him, because we're telling people to go, join him and sign up and subscribe to him. We're going to finish this and then wrap up the podcast after the end of this. It's 10 and a half more minutes, just so you guys know.
Well, it turns out that it was in the...
And we're playing at 1.25x, so it'll be a little quicker.
Western states that FDR's electoral margin had been thin in 1932, where he had just barely won. Whereas in the South, he was totally secure. The southern states hadn't voted for a Republican, basically pretty much ever. Ever since Reconstruction, they had made pretty clear that no Republican was going to be elected in the South. They were the solid South. They voted Democrat. Again and again and again, the South voted Democrat. So the argument that some scholars have made is that Franklin Roosevelt realizes that the South is going to vote for him no matter what he does. Doesn't matter. He could run around naked, wouldn't matter. The South would vote for him. He's a Democrat. So why should he bother wasting his precious resources?
He could run around. Wasn't he in a wheelchair, Tom? He's going to run around. He's going to run around. He's going to wheel around naked.
On WPA projects in the South when they're going to vote for him no matter what he does to them. Whereas on the other hand, it's not so clear that the West will continue to vote for him. He only barely won out there, so he's really going to need his WPA projects out there to, in effect, bribe them into voting for him. That is what numerous scholars have said. Gavin,
what the left always does, we'll pay off your student debt, guys. Just vote for us. Bribing you to vote for him. Bringing in illegals, giving them $10,000 a month on re-uppable debit cards, home loans, etc. Bribing people to vote for him. That's what the left always does. That's why I keep telling people to read that article from Foundation for Economic Education, Not Yours to Give, about Davy Crockett teaching Congress that public taxpayer money is not to be used for private causes.
Evan Wright, for example, John Joseph Wallace, Jim F. Couch, and William Shugart have all claimed this. They've noted a significant correlation between New Deal spending and Franklin Roosevelt's political needs.
Huh.
Now, what about the argument that you'll sometimes hear there was a lot of government spending during the 1930s, and this led to economic recovery? That
Bullshit.
Franklin Roosevelt was not afraid to run government budget deficits, to spend more money than he brought in taxes. That's what stimulated the economy, the willingness to spend money the government didn't have, to borrow.
Yeah, that's why the Great Depression lasted longer than any other market disaster in American history.
Money and spend it.
Lasted longer than the 1907 bank panic, which was caused by J.P. Morgan and ended the Knickerbocker Bank. Lasted longer than the 1921 panic. Lasted longer than the 1791 bank collapse caused by my 7X great-grandfather, Colonel William Dewar, Assistant Secretary of the Treasury under Washington, with Alexander Hamilton as the Treasury Secretary. But no. All that government spending in the 30s, which made the Depression last longer, way longer than all those other disasters. Sure, it was all that spending that made it last longer. Yeah, that's what you were trying to say.
That's what got the economy moving again. Whereas Hoover had been too stingy, he hadn't spent enough government money, and the economy had languished. Well, leaving aside whether spending government money is a good thing for the economy or not,
right, Sam.
We can just look at this. First of all, economist Christina Romer, who had been one of the chief economic advisors to Barack Obama, has made this claim. But we can't accept this claim, though, because it was in fiscal year 1933 when the economy hit the lowest point of the Depression. The deficit at that time, the government budget deficit, was 4.5% of GDP. In the first 3 years of the New Deal, so the 3 years after that, every year it averaged 5.1% of GDP. Well, it seems pretty unlikely that the deficit goes up by 0.6 percentage points, and we're supposed to believe that's what did it. That's what took us from the worst economy ever to the beginnings of recovery. You just increase the deficit by this much, and it makes all the difference in the world. Maybe there's something else going on here. It turns out that the recovery was already underway before Franklin Roosevelt took office. It was already underway under Hoover. So all he had to do was sit there, and he could take credit for it. So it has nothing whatsoever to do with the government budget deficits. If government budget deficits would have helped, then Herbert Hoover's 4.5% of GDP should have helped.
Just so you guys know, launching a raid on Bulldozer 74. His broadcast is going to begin shortly, 9:30 Central, at the bottom of the hour. So at any point, guys, feel free to tune out and hit that join button right over here at the top of the chat and go get ready to hang out with Bulldozer for his show tonight. Props to Bulldozer. We love you, buddy. Doing a good job. Keep up the good work. For now, let's continue with Tom Woods.
But instead, that was the worst year of all. So in other words, my point here is that the size of the deficits, there's so little difference between the size of the deficit at the end of Hoover's term and at the beginning of Roosevelt's that it can't possibly be an explanatory factor in why things gradually got better. We did see some economic growth in the 1930s. The difference is so small and trivial, it can't possibly account for this. Also, if such a small shift in government spending, just a tiny little bit, makes the difference between the worst depression ever under Hoover and the beginnings of recovery under FDR, then what would happen when government spending was cut after World War II? After World War II, government spending was cut by 2/3. Dramatic cut. So if lower government spending is supposed to lead to terrible outcomes, Herbert Hoover didn't spend enough, that's why we had a terrible outcome, then after World War II, we should have had the worst outcome of all. We've never seen the government budget get slashed so severely. And in fact, the economic historian Robert Gordon says, in the summer of 1945, the belief was fairly widely held in Washington that unemployment would be a serious problem during the winter of 1945 to 46. So when everybody realized World War II is coming to an end, there were a lot of economists who, to their eternal discredit, warned that, oh no, if the government cuts back on spending, we'll all be unemployed. But you know what? It turns out that other people will spend that money and employ you. The economist Alvin Hansen in the middle of the war said, when the war is over, the government can't just disband the army, close down munitions factories, stop building ships, and remove all economic controls. But you know what? That is exactly what the U.S. government did. That is exactly what it did, word for word. That's what it did.
Boom. Brian Hill, thanks for following us on Rumble. Appreciate you giving me the opportunity to earn your viewership. Brian Hill, thanks for joining us. Welcome, all new censored commoners.
And what happened? Did the economy collapse? Because again, if we're supposed to believe that a fall in government spending, or that a small amount of government spending means bad economic times, but when you boost government spending, that means good economic times, well, then it should work in reverse too. If you cut the government budget, that should send us tumbling back to bad economic times. And yet, 1946 was the single greatest year for the private economy, that is, leaving out the public sector, the private economy, in all of American history.
They unclamped all of the bullshit market interventions, at least a lot of them. Like Lady H posted, there are 7 at least New Deal programs still that exist today. Link to this article will be in the description if you guys want to learn more about that. But yeah, they unclamp all of the market controls and then everything gets way better. Most productive year ever. Just more evidence that all the interventions screwed up the system, man. It doesn't take rocket appliances to figure this out.
The economy had always recovered in the past from...
Loki is hanging out in front of the window on her jungle gym, which I guess I'll show you the jungle gym real quick since I can, technically. Hold on a sec. Big construction of all kinds of stuff over here for her to play on. So she was just lurking on a jungle gym over there. All right, let's continue.
All other previous downturns. Why was this recovery so slow? You did see economic growth. The economy did grow in the 1930s, but joblessness remained frustratingly high all throughout the 30s. How do we account for this? And one of the explanations that's been given comes from the economic historian Robert Higgs, very, very accomplished historian and economist. And Higgs talked about something called regime uncertainty. If business firms do not have confidence in the stability of political life, if they don't have confidence that the government will do the right thing, or they don't have confidence that they can predict what the government's going to do, or they feel like the government is erratic. It's doing one thing, then another, like experimenting with the economy, or if the government is virulently anti-business. Well, all these things put together may lead businesses to say, you know what, now is not a time to invest in expanding our company. Now's a time to hunker down and hope for better times. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's it. That's the plan. Is I'm gonna get another video card. I have another camera. I already have the camera. Just need another video card to set up, and then I can have a camera pointing that direction, have two cameras going constantly, so you guys can watch Loki playing. Maybe I'll put it behind the chat on screen or something, so you guys can constantly be watching Loki on screen.
Higgs says, given the unparalleled outpouring of business-threatening laws, regulations, and court decisions, the oft-stated hostility of President Roosevelt and his lieutenants toward investors as a class, and the character of the anti-business zealots who composed the strategists and administrators of the New Deal from 1935 to 1941, the political climate could hardly have failed to discourage some investors from making fresh, long-term commitments. He calls this regime uncertainty. And as I said, from 1933 to 1940, the average unemployment rate remained at 18%. So the problem went on and on and on. So it is not true to say that the New Deal got the country out of the Great Depression. And of course, it's not true to say World War II got the economy out of the Great Depression. We already talked about war and the economy. We saw that the years of World War II were times of impoverishment for the American public. No, for what really got the country back out of the Depression, I refer you to your reading for today, which covers that very topic. So this has been a kind of fresh look at the New Deal, not the standard view, but a view that is upheld by an increasing number of modern scholars. So thanks for watching. All right, folks, before we wrap up for the weekend, let me tell you about a podcast that a member of my supporting listeners group has started.
All right, hope you guys enjoyed that. Some pretty interesting Great Depression information. It's all a lie, it's all bullshit, as usual, as you would expect. Everything they say, it's the opposite in reality. Yep, pretty much. Let me see real quick if I can play an audio clip for you guys. Screen share. All right, let me see. Okay, this should work. Let me see real quick if I do that. Where's the screen share? Oh, all right, it's all the way behind that. Okay, yeah. Check this out. I recorded this little clip on guitar last night for my friend, if you guys want to hear a little guitar real quick. Can you guys hear that? Yeah, that was just having a little bit of fun last night playing some guitarra. Thank you guys again for being here for this episode of Common Censored. Make sure to tune in to Billdozer74, who will be broadcasting shortly in about 22 minutes over on Rumble. Billdozer74. Make sure to subscribe while you're over there. Subscribe to Lady Hamilton Art as well. Don't forget to check out alplama.com for your herbal remedy needs. Tinctures that taste bad, but they're so good for you. JJR, that was my own tapping creation. Just something I made up like 20 years ago, literally, that I was just playing for fun yesterday. Yeah, so that was my own original writing for that piece. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to check out Golden Cocoon EMF protection as well. Protect your brainium by wrapping your cranium in a Faraday shield. They got scarves you can wear on your lap. They got blankets to wear on your lap. You know, if you're using a laptop, protect your gonads with a Faraday shield. Your sexual reproductive tissues are particularly susceptible to cancer-causing radiation. So protect your nads, protect your knockers, you know, whatever you got to do. Sorry. Protect your nad knockers. They got hats, they got blankets, they got ball caps, hoods, neck gaiters, scarves, couple different styles of beanies. You guys will not be disappointed. Take pictures wearing your newfangled fancy tinfoil hats. Send them our direction. Thanks again for being here, everybody. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thanks for supporting us, keeping the show alive. Hit up our link tree to do that. You can find Golden Cocoon over there. Use this affiliate link to support the broadcast and Golden Cocoon simultaneously. And don't forget to use promo code CENSORED for 10% off your order. Get it cheaper than you can find them on Amazon. We also have our merch. You can find links to the merch, links to our books, Common Sense, first edition revived, made a facsimile replication of a January 1776 first edition copy of Common Sense. We also have the redacted version, Common Censored, our eponymous title. Eponymous, hippopotamus, I don't know, kind of reminds me of that word for some reason. Anybody who would be interested in subscribing monthly to support the show and Subscribe Star Locals or by hitting that big, beautiful join button. That's right, Mandy J. Lawson, booby protection with one of those scarves or something. You got to keep those boobies safe, ladies. Got to keep them safe. So anybody that supports the show monthly, automatically entitled to a rank of commissioned officer in the infantry in whichever branch you choose to join: Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard. And everybody can always volunteer for the Meme Cannon Cavalry. Also, Rumble Rants we will read on air, and anybody who makes one-time donations with Rumble Rant or Cash App or Venmo or Google Pay, entitled to a rank of warrant officer in the branch of the infantry that you desire. Thanks again in advance for supporting us and to everybody who already has. But the most important thing you can do is just sharing the broadcast. Anybody who shares once is automatically entitled to an enlisted rank in the branch of your choosing in the infantry. And then every 15 shares after that, you can rank up in ranks and branches parallel to the American military. We're not actually a military, FBI. We're just waging info war. So completing 15 missions for the show gets you rank ups. A mission is just sharing the show. So just share it on Facebook, on YouTube. YouTube. Can't really share on YouTube. Facebook, Twitter, X, Truth, Getter, Gab, Minds, forums, anywhere. That's the most important thing you can do, and I really appreciate it. People tend to like the show when they know it exists. It's just us that know it exists yet, though. So help spread the word and help us go parabolic by spreading the links all over the interwebs. Thank you guys again so much for supporting us and keeping us alive and on air. Appreciate it bigly. Your support is tremendous, and I thank you for it. So this has been episode 232. We'll be back tomorrow for our Friday edition of More Common Censored. Shout out to everybody out there watching. I salute you, members of the infantry. Make sure to head on over to Bill Dozer 74's channel. Hit that big, beautiful join button at the top of the chat, the green one, and go hang out with Bill as he covers the clown world clusterfuck chaos as well. JJR SVL. Make sure to subscribe to JJR SVL on Rumble as well. We love you, JJR. Thanks so much for all of your intrepid support. JJR, of course, our Info Navy Combat Information Center Command Fleet Admiral. At ease, Admiral. We'll catch you guys on the flip side for more Common Censored, 6:45-ish weekdays, Monday through Friday. Join us or die. Join or die, to quote Benjamin Franklin. Ow! Yeah, join the pack. I see the howls in the chat over there. All right, love you guys. We'll be back for more tomorrow. Until then, you guys know exactly what to do. Think for yourself. Question authority. Think for yourself. Question authority. Think for yourself. Question authority. Think for yourself. And smash that like button. Thank you guys. We'll catch you on the flip side. Trop farted, trop farted!